Don't look down, never fade out. And I just wanna be someone and never fall behind again. Just keep on moving on, never look down, never fade out, never fade out.
I've been working part-time jobs, chasing all my dreams now lately. No matter if I try too hard, nothing's ever enough, baby. No, I don't care too much. I don't care too much. As long as I can keep you by my side, I don't care too much. We got time, no rush. In your eyes, I always see there is something meant for me. In your eyes, I always part-time jobs, chasing all my dreams that lately. No matter if I try too hard, nothing's ever enough, baby. No, I don't care too much. I don't care too much. As long as I can keep you by my side. I don't care too much. We got time, no rush. In your eyes, I always see there is something meant for me. In your eyes, I always feel different. Tell me everything's alright. Life is just a bunch of phases, and if it's not, we'll still be fine. I know we're going places. I don't care too much. I don't care too much. As long as I can keep you by my side. I don't care too much. We got time, no rush. In your eyes, I always see there is something meant for me. In your eyes, I always feel different. In your eyes, I always see there is something meant for me. In your eyes, I always feel different.
We've come far, experienced so much. been to so many places with so many people, with one destination in mind, to create a world where everybody can be somebody. A sport where every fan has a voice. A movement where anyone can come in. People came from all over the world to be a part of it, to prove that, if you want it enough, anything's possible. There's a hero hidden in all of us, waiting to leap out of our bedrooms and onto the world stage.
So when all of us here grow older and our children grow older, we'll tell them about how it all began.
A generation came together. Friends turned into leaders. Superstars stepped out of the shadows and inspired a whole sport to do the same.
You are the people who found esports, drove esports, and believed in it.
What happens next? Well, that depends on how we write it.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here at IBC 2019. I hope you've loved your conference. Thank you for choosing us to wrap it up for you. This is the Esports Showcase. This is the ESL National Championships Invitational. Now, I dare say, although I do see some esports fans in this audience, I dare say there are one or two of you here who've never watched esports or indeed video games in your lives. Don't worry, we've got you. We have a lot of action for you, but we are also going to intentionally peer behind the curtain a bit today as well. So if you see a camera in frame or a green screen reveal itself, don't worry, that is what we are intending to do for you. If we talk about traditional sports that maybe more of you are familiar with, and we think out of the game in those, and the arenas out there seen in, we've been to the Rio Olympic Park, we've been to the Barclays Center in New York year after year. 15,000 fans join us at the LAN-Access Arena in Cologne every year to watch the game that we are going to showcase for you today. And if you compare the sports that are also seen in those arenas, much of the things are the same in esports. We do it with a studio, a classic control room, the production line that you may well be familiar with. Graphics and highlights and statistics, yes, we love numbers. In esports, we love numbers. If you're into statistics, we have a place in esports for you. But we are talking about video games. So we have the opportunity and the technology to go into the game. So for a game like Counter-Strike Global Offensive that we'll show you shortly, we have an observer team, whereas you might have, let's say, 15 camera operators, courtside or pitch side for a traditional sport. We do that through our observer team. And while you can get a wire cam, particularly close to, let's say, a fast bowler or a quarterback, within reason and within safety limits, we can get as close as the ball. We do all these massive tournaments. We have two great teams to showcase this one for you today. But of course, as part of doing those tournaments, a company like ESL is not only the producer, but the creator of the events as well. That gives us unprecedented access. We run the media days. We provide the practice rooms that the players use on site. We'll talk a little bit later on about the experience that it is for players such as these on our stage. And talking about these players, we have the ESL Master Spanish League champions Offset Esports against the 2 times ESL Meisterschaft German champions Alternate Attacks. They are going to be playing in this show match on Counter-Strike Global Offensive. That's just one of the many games which make up our world of esports. We call it CSGO for short. It is a very, very fast 5-on-5 team shooter. A lot of rounds and a lot of action. We will take you through it. We've got you. These two teams are going to be playing 2 maps in the showcase. There is money on the line for the winners of these maps as well. To explain the game and take you through the action, we'll go to our analysts. We have Jason Kaplan, we have Tom Bismore, and they're on the desk with Dan Gaskin.
Thank you very much, Matt. And yes, we're joined by a live chicken as well, it would seem. And no, don't worry, there's no camera trickery. Jason is actually 6'9", and we are incredibly short. I mean, usually on the desk we would have analysts, and I would be your desk host. However, you guys are going to be pairing up, you're going to be doubling up as analysts and commentary team. I mean, talk me through that, because your role usually you'd be a caster, a commentator, but having to double up as an analyst as well, it's something you've done previously.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, especially for like shorter days like this. I feel like you don't necessarily need like a full team of analysts to break down the maps, especially when we're going to be sort of simplifying a lot of the things that are going to be happening today, just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on.
The thing is, if you compare like esports to traditional sports, we have like a full day of games. We have like 12 hours of broadcast, so it's not like we show up, we do like a 90-minute football match, and then we're done for the day. No, we sit there for the analyst sections, we sit there and commentate, we have breaks in between. It's a lot. It's more of like a marathon than a sprint for us if you compare the two.
Yeah, we've got the whole ecosystem of Counter-Strike as well. Of course, this is just a show match, so this has nothing to do with anything like the Pro Leagues and the National Championships, but you've got to start somewhere, and National Championships is where both of the sides who are competing today did start. They are both national champions of their regions. We've got Germany, we've got Spain. How important do you think it is that we have these national championships so we can have teams like this compete on the big stages?
It's massively important. It's like coming up in a sport like football, really. You sort of start off within your own region, then maybe you get picked up by international teams later on and move on. But it's like the one thing that's great about Counter-Strike is you can like play these championships. There's money on the line. There's sponsors involved for a lot of the teams. And then you can move up. You can get to the likes of a Mountain Dew League, which is, I would say, a bit like the championship. Like you're just off being at that top spot, and then you can qualify for things like Pro League, and once you move up those wonderful ESL rankings, you can start getting to Katowice, where there's now, I think, $500,000 on the line. They've just announced that for this year, and you can start playing against the best teams in the world.
And I guess we should talk about Pro League then. I mean, Pro League is one of the most watched things that we see with Counter-Strike because it's a weekly show. It's almost like your Premiership live games you'd see on a weekend. I mean, how entertaining is that, do you think, as a viewer, the fact you can watch your favorite teams every single week?
Yeah, you get to see them grow, I think, is like the really cool aspect of it. You get to see how they change from like week 1 to week 2 to week 3. A lot of people don't get to see what happens like behind the scenes of like how teams prepare for matches, how the internal turmoil can be going within a team. But getting to see them like week in and week out and like a nice little story for you gives you the opportunity to see how they've like adapted, how they've grown, how they've fallen from grace like some teams have in the past. So it's really cool to see that as like a viewer. It always gives you something to like look forward to. If you look at traditional sports, you have like your weekly like NFL match for American football. You have your weekly football match here in Europe. Like you have the teams you want to watch playing, tune in for the time, and you get to see them.
And then we have our biggest stadium events where thousands of people will come and watch, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line as well. I mean, you've been a spectator, you've been a caster when it comes to these big events. How important is it to the people who do go and view this to be able to watch those biggest teams live on stage?
Well, yeah, it's like IEM Katowice, the major that was earlier this year, was absolutely massive. I actually went there as a viewer and sort of just sat in the crowd with thousands of other fans. You have people chanting for their own teams, much like sort of regular sports where they have this passion. And the other thing as well is a lot of these teams, like take, for example, Astralis are on your team right now. They are a purely Danish roster. So you get your almost like the heart of your country. Unfortunately for UK, there's not too many of those teams lying around, at least in Counter-Strike. I know in other games there definitely are, but you get to follow the teams you love or support your country at the same time.
Well, you speak of Katowice, the very first year it happened in 2014, you had a Polish team in the grand finals of the CSGO tournament, and they won in front of their hometown crowd. It's a moment that, as we talk to the players, interview them, that they will never forget in their lives. And as like a viewer, I think nowadays it's a little bit different than it was maybe like 5 years ago, but you don't feel so alone. You know, maybe you're like kind of an outcast in terms of like, I don't really watch traditional sports too much anymore, but like when you're at an event with the people who share the same interests as you, share the same game as you, you feel like not alone. You feel like you're a part of something, and that's one thing that really, I think, reaches out to a lot of people with esports.
We've seen some incredible players, both internationally and regionally as well, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people get to see, like both visually, they see us on the stage and they see us in rooms like this, and you might think, well, why on earth are they within a map right now? We're not actually within a map. This is just all green screen, and I'm sure if I snap my fingers, we can actually see what happens. Oh, hey, there you go. Suddenly it looks terrible. It doesn't look quite as good. I don't like it. I look 10
green
times
looks
worse.
Good on you, though. I like it.
You think it looks nice? Let's get that back. Let's get back into the map so we can see how it looks. It's beautiful. I've always wanted to be within a map, so I'm finally been able to achieve my dreams.
You're in a game.
I am.
You're
I
in
am.
a game.
It's incredible.
But that's the cool thing with like this technology, right? Is
Yeah.
that there's so much being pushed into esports that you just can't do, as my manager was saying on the stage. You just can't do in traditional sports. You can't be there in the field watching. You can't move your camera where you want to see it like you can in CS:GO.
You can't have chickens walking around without causing problems.
And then there's other things that, of course, we don't see as well. There's all of the behind the scenes. There's all of the people who are doing the harder work, I would say, than our job, and they make us look very good. Tom, talk to me a little bit about what goes on back there.
Well, yeah, backstage you have an awful lot of different people. Like, not only do you have the people controlling all of the cameras around us, but you have people controlling the cameras within the actual game itself. So you have, for example, on our screen, Rush, one of the best observers in the world, who basically controls all of the cameras within the game. So he'll switch between the 10 different players. He can do overview cams. He can, for example, bring up the map to show like exactly what's going on, and it will have the players actually running around live for you to see. And then you also have like all the statistics that are built into the game as well. And I know, for example, ESL have their own HUD that they've built that actually sort of shows you different statistics that you might normally see within the actual game.
And the thing is, you have like 2 different groups working on this as well. You have like a show director, for instance, like showing you the stage, showing you the different cam positions, like a TD. But then you have like an in-game director. He's like the one who's telling you the story or trying to help shape the story of how things are going.
And we have all of those important people. They make us look incredible. But let's take a closer look at that producer role.
Very similar for getting into game. We'll have the map fly and come over. We'll have no versus thing here, but we'll have the players animate up just like this. If you were going to ask me what exactly I have to do when producing a show, it's nothing in particular, but everything all at once. It's all about the thought that goes into the production, the scenes, why are we doing what we're doing, and how do we accomplish it. The first thing when I get on site is I check in with our camera director where you can get walk-ins for players, how you're going to approach different situations, which cameras you want to use when, what sort of feelings. Do you want a cheering audience or a stage exploding in front of the fans? One of the other people I like to grab is the stage manager. And these 2 people need to know where all the talent are going to be, where the interview is going to be held, where the players need to walk, making sure that we can have everything as synchronized and coordinated as possible. Fnatic and Navi first, and then Big and G2. The big thing, especially when you're going over the opening of a show, is how it feels. We decided to put extra effort into that before the grand final begins. Really capture the emotion of the crowd with 15,000 people all at once. So it's going to be amazing. The feeling that myself and everyone else who's working on it wants people to take away is your hair raising on your arm. Those chills, people rise to their feet in excitement and the shared passion that we all have for esports. And this is why we do it, essentially.
And it is good that we do give the producers, the observers, that time in the spotlight because they deserve the pat on the back. Often we get it. I don't think we should have it. They should definitely have it. But let's start talking then about these 2 teams. Alternate Attacks is our first team. A national champion, of course, a German side. Do you think they're in a good position here?
I would say so. So if we look at like both teams are both generally on the kind of same level. They win their regional championship quite often. I think Alternate is a team that's kind of been around a lot longer. Organizationally, they've been around for like at least a decade of time. And I think that in general, they've played against better teams more often, just kind of being in Central or more towards Central Europe and Germany. But I feel like they should be the team to beat in this. They've had like the better records lately. They've beaten teams that have beaten Offset, so they should be the favorites.
Well, Offset are going to be their opponents. They're also national champions, though, Portuguese side. Do you think they're just going to come here just to enjoy themselves, though? Maybe they don't have that same pressure because they're not as known?
I think they're still going to come here and want to show what they've got. Because even if there isn't any pressure, say, on, for example, rankings as such, it's still a good opportunity for them to show themselves to the wider audience. And also, if they can sort of make some big plays, show off they've got some talent, it's always going to be good for them to do well here.
And it's even similar to, like, if you look at traditional sports of playing, like, in a minor kind of league. You don't really have, like, a large audience in front of you, or maybe you're not used to playing in such a big stadium. But even if you're coming to this event and maybe taking your foot off the gas a little bit, kind of being more relaxed with it, it's still a learning process because teams don't necessarily have as much time in front of, like, a crowd on a stage in a LAN setting, a local area network setting. And they're not really used to this kind of exposure. They're not, used to being out of their own house where they're comfortable sitting at home on a desk, their own chair, their own, like, set up 100%, everything the right way they like it, wearing whatever they want to wear, you know, eating whatever they want to eat. So it's a nice learning process that I think every person that wants to be a pro player, you have to go through this little like growing pain.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm sure everyone is ready to see some CSGO action. So it's about time we jump into the first match then. Offset Esports versus Alternate Attacks. It's going to be on Overpass, and I'll allow our commentators to take us through it.
Yeah, Overpass, one of the 7 maps that we currently have within the competitive pool, and we are going into what we call our pistol round. This is going to be kicking things off. You don't have the majority of the money available to be able to get a lot of the stuff done that you'd like in the future rounds, as this is mostly an economy-based game, but winning the pistol really can sort of set you up nicely, and well, Alternate Attacks have done that very easily.
Yeah, so we obviously realize a lot of people watching maybe not know a lot about Counter-Strike. So it's like a 5-on-5 first-person shooter. You have a defending team, which is the blue team here, the counter-terrorists. Currently, Alternate Attacks are playing this. And then you have the attacking team, the orange or yellow team, Offset Esports, who their goal is to reach one of the 2 bomb sites on the map, plant the bomb, which they have on one player. You can drop it to other teammates, or you can take it yourselves, and then defend it till it explodes. That's one win condition. The other is to just kill the entire enemy team. And now Alternate, because they won the first round, their economy is a lot better. They have the guns, they have the weaponry to buy up. You can see they're against like very basic pistols, even though in some cases, obviously it works out for Offset as they do take that first frag here in this round. But economy is the defining part of Counter-Strike compared to other FPS games, and it's a very important factor that every team has to master if you want to be the best.
Yeah, and you may think, like, okay, well, surely for the winning team in these sort of positions, it's going to become a little bit unfair if they're earning more money as they go along. But the way this game works is you start off with a loss bonus of $1,400. And then for every round you continuously lose, you then earn $500 more each time up until the point where you win. So there are basically countermeasures to try and give the losing team more of an opportunity to actually gain some money back. So
and there's different ways you can actually earn money besides that as well. You can earn it by getting these eliminations like you see here, different weapons, net different amount of money, so it kind of shapes the way you want to play. If you win like an early pistol round, as we mentioned, like the first round of the half, then maybe you want to upgrade to some of these SMGs, these submachine gun weapons that actually give you more money if you get a kill with that you can use later to pick up the rifles or to pick up like the sniper rifle in the game, which is a very important aspect of it. So it's a lot of mind games, a lot of things you have to think about when going into this, but it looks like Alternate have been able to take the first 2 rounds. We're going to be going into a buy round now here for both teams, so that means full grenades. You can see on the left and right hand side of your screen, and we see the rifles come in as well. We do have one of those snipers picked up by Slack, so we're currently watching. It's a role that very few people ever take because you limit it to 1, potentially 2, depending on situations for your team. But it's going to be important for him to take these long angle positions and hit these shots. And with this gun, it's a 1-shot kill anywhere above the waist and definitely in the head as well, as you see Riz does fall. But it's a very important weapon to be able to use in a team and to have in your inventory.
Yeah, of course, each player, as you can see on either side, has 100 health. Shot to the face does over 400 with the AWP. So it's definitely one of those guns that can do an awful lot. And we're going to see a plethora of different weapons picked up at the moment. They are continuously changed and balanced within the game by the creator itself. And although that doesn't always go as smoothly as you like, there are definitely some good changes that have come in recently to, for example, bring in the SG, which we currently see on Just and Stadodo, who again basically gives them a scope, which the majority of guns within this game don't have.
And the thing is, there's so many like small things and intricacies you have to learn within the game. Each weapon has a recoil pattern, which means when you hold that mouse button down to shoot, it goes a certain way, and you can actually master it in a way that you can prevent it from going too far off your screen. We see Mantu able to push through the smoke, one of the utilities you can use in the game. It picks up 3 quick kills. Offset not expecting that, and Alternate do have that early 3-0 lead.
Yeah, he's probably the best player in the server at the moment. Like Mantu 100%. Is obviously British, so I'm a little bit biased, and I'm going to support a little bit extra. And he's got a Polish flag on the. I think it varies on a different. I think he's half and half. So he is.
Yeah, it could be like born in Poland but lived in the UK. We'll take it either way. So now we see Offset. They invested into that last round. They bought up the utility, the rifles as well. But because of the money they spent, they now have to go into a save round. So they have a little bit of armor. It does prevent damage. It prevents a little bit of damage, plus it stops your recoil from changing when you're shooting, because if you get hit with no armor, your shot basically goes straight up and you can't control it. But they didn't invest too much because they're expecting to buy into this next round.
Yeah, and what we just saw a moment ago is actually something that is quite interesting, using the different levels of the map to try and give yourself extra vision. So there was a slide towards the back. You can stand on someone else's head to give yourself some height advantages and see over positions that you may not necessarily be able to see without either the health of a teammate or obviously the map itself. So different maps will have different things. Also, we can talk a little bit about the utility usage. So these are your grenades. So you can see the CT side or the blue side at the moment currently with a lot of grenades on your left-hand side. They've got incendiary, smokes, and flashbangs. And for the majority, you can kind of work out what they do. Incendiaries, they're just going to be trying to burn things out. That should not be happening for anybody wondering. Like, that is a ridiculous couple of kills coming off the back of the pistol, which is only costing them $700 to invest into.
But that's what makes CS so exciting, is you can have these individual moments of brilliance that catch people off guard. You can have someone win 1v5. Right now, Just is going to be in a 1-on-2 situation. They actually do Molotov him off, so he has to push through that and take damage. They don't have a kit, though, which makes the defuse get cut in half. He's going to have to push up, and Man2 already knows he's there, watches the angle, takes him down, and alternate go up 4-0.
Yeah, but with the bomb plant, of course, the Ts will make themselves an extra $800 per player. So that should mean that over the next few rounds, their finances are going to allow them more of a chance to continue to buy, which is something, as said, the more you lose, the more money you're going to be making. Although at 5 rounds, it gets capped, because otherwise it gets to a point where you're earning a little bit too much for the game to actually cope with. But on the other side, the CTs, when they're winning, that money can go up to $16,000. So you can see they're not doing too well at the moment in terms of their finances. They've got a couple of players like Man2 who has a lot of extra cash available to him to buy into the next round. And on average, on the T side, you're looking to have about $4,900 to buy a rifle and grenades, whereas on the other side, it costs a little bit more to buy things. So you kind of want around like the 5,400 marker, I would say, for alternate attacks to be able to continuously buy in this game.
We mentioned earlier about how, you look at traditional sports and then esports, we can be the ball. We're literally watching that player's point of view, how they're shooting, how they're moving their mouse, how they're moving themselves around the map. And even in some tournaments, you have something called Go TV, which is like a separate little thing. You can join the game, like physically join the game yourself at home on your PC. And like, all right, well, the stream's showing this player's point of view, but I only want to watch player X. I only want to see what he sees, right? Or I only want to watch him, or only want to watch a certain site. You can do that yourself. And it gives like the average viewer or anyone at home the ability to watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it. And even then, you can have the commentary that we're currently doing in-game being played to them as well. So it's this really cool in-depth kind of thing where you can see what you want to see.
Well, even if there isn't available, a lot of companies themselves actually do that, where they allow you for like a premium to actually show more point of views and more statistics and more data, like you would have, again, in a lot of sports situations. But so far, alternate attacks, all they've really done is show us that they're looking to try and win this game. It is already going to be 4-0 in favor of them. The timer as well, it takes 3.5 seconds to plant that bomb, so you need to make sure you have at least that much time left if you are going to be pushing into this round. And then once it is planted, there is 40 seconds for you to defuse it if you are on the CT side. So if the CT side kill everyone here, they still have to make sure that bomb is defused. Otherwise, well, it's going to blow up and destroy everything that is there.
And it looks like it might be able to. You can see Creasy trying to push in. He's against 2 players. He realizes, all right, well, we don't have that much money. You can see on his side, he's got 2.2 thousand. The chance of winning a 1v2, it's doable. But it's smarter for him to let this round go to offset, kind of help reset their loss bonus, and then make sure to save his weapon to the next round. Because obviously having a weapon versus not having a weapon plays such a massive difference between how these rounds can work out here. So good job by offset to finally get a round on the board. Problem is, it's kind of up for discussion, Tom, because we've had it change so many times over different patches within the game. What side is a favorable side in any map? It's really kind of hard to tell because it depends on, I think, the teams for the most part, because obviously some teams are better attacking than defending, but also the different maps as well play a part of how confident you are on that map.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think the majority of the maps within this game are CT-sided, but there's a few sneaking in, like Vertigo, the new one, has been sort of tainted a little bit more T-sided. But of course, a lot of what you're currently seeing on screen at the moment is actually created by ESL. So like you have custom HUDs, a custom map which they have created to make things a little bit easier to see. I'm sure Rush is ready and waiting to maybe sort of take away some of the magic and just show what it is without everything on your screen at the moment. Game. So this is without obviously the map a little bit less streamlined. You lose a lot of the in-game stuff, and it's a bit more clunky. That's the way I'm going to put it.
But that's what's nice about esports in general. You can customize so much. At least in certain games you can. You can customize a ton to do what you want and and have it the way you want it to, as well as stats, like being able to pull out numbers from the game. You literally pull it directly from the code, what's happening in the server logs, and you can get real-time stats. Obviously, we see that done in traditional sports, but it's a lot easier, I'd say, to do because you can just code something to pull all that information out for you.
Yeah, well, we've seen even a lot of sort of organizers in the past even go with like augmented reality stuff within the game. Like, you really can do a lot of editing with what's currently there. Unlike, they're putting stuff on a traditional sports pitch, it's a little bit more difficult. You kind of might get in the player's way.
Yeah, that's 100% true. So now we see Offset trying to go for the attack. They have about 27 seconds left to get the bomb planted on the site. They're currently sitting towards the B site. And you can see on the minimap towards that top left-hand side, that red rectangle, that is currently the bomb, which is down on the ground. But it doesn't matter, because Alternate won by just killing off the entirety of the enemy team and really get themselves one step closer to winning the 5,000 euros for the first map.
Yeah, and it was actually Dude doing a lot of the heavy lifting in this sort of situation. He's actually the in-game leader for the side.
Yeah, we should talk about roles, actually.
Yeah, so within a team, normally you pick up players for different reasons. You may be looking at this and thinking, okay, this is just 5 players on either side shooting at each other. But that is not how things work in the majority of Counter-Strike. For example, you can see a couple of AWPs currently in play for the CT side. You're only really going to have 1 or 2 players maximum who are going to be playing that weapon throughout the game. You have Dude, for example, as already mentioned. He's the in-game leader. He's the one calling strategies within the game, trying to set his team up in different positions. You have supportive roles as well, where you might have somebody, for example, throwing a flashbang over the top to give somebody the space to make a play. And it really is important that you have a balance within the team, but also even without the team. Like, you have to note the alternate attacks normally will have their coach standing behind them, and they're allowed to pause the game for a certain amount of time within each match to have a conversation, to maybe spot things that they haven't within the game, or give them a specific strategy that he thinks will work within the game. And they themselves have a hell of a lot of background stuff. Like, even teams now coming in with like mental coaches as well,
nutritionists
to try and,
as well.
Yeah, so it really has become a massive industry with so many different roles for people to play.
It's one of the fastest growing industries out there, and for good reason. A lot of people enjoy video games, enjoy watching video games, and they do it as people watch traditional sports, you know, supporting their favorite, you know, football team, or in this case, favorite Counter-Strike team. So now we see it's a 2-1-3 situation. Currently, Offset do have control of the site, meaning they have players there. The problem is they don't really have the weaponry because, again, they were forced to pretty much go for a shoddy buy after last round. Even though they did win it, they didn't win it cleanly. And again, the economy game plays entire control of how this goes, and OBJ hits a fantastic shot on Mantu, and that's going to be Stefan pushing in, but eventually finished off, and Offset going to win on a really terrible buy. Not a greatest of buys, but they win nonetheless, and they get one step closer to tying things.
Yeah, and this becomes like a big part of the economy game once again, where they're now going to be in a position where the counter-terrorist side, the defenders, are not going to be able to purchase too well into this round. And as said, most of the time, especially on a map like this, Overpass, you're expecting the CT side to actually get more rounds. So they'll switch at the halftime. We play 15 rounds on either side, so each team will get to play on both sides. Obviously, if you lose the first half, 15-0, it's first to 16, so you're probably screwed. But it can definitely happen where
we have seen some comebacks.
Yeah, a team can just play one of the sides much better. And as said, we expect to see alternate attacks getting more rounds in this first half. However, with the T's already managing to get a couple of rounds on the board, plus the fact that their purchase, as you can notice on the sides, is much better at this point, we should really be seeing Offset actually getting themselves back into this game a little bit.
Yeah, they should be here. You can see Alternate, they don't really have too many weapons. Again, the UI we do have, it shows that Cressy currently sitting with the SG, a scoped rifle. Not as good as the AWP, but still definitely good nonetheless. And what's nice about, you know, esports compared to traditional sports is the fact that there are updates to the game. There are like tweaks to the game. Like, this gun has less ammo in its clip, or this gun does more damage, or we're just gonna add a whole new gun completely. Exactly. So not only do you have to be good at the game itself, but you have to be good at adapting. And I think people who don't know anything about esports look at this like, it's just, you know, 10 guys playing a video game. Anyone can do that. You know, how do you compare this to traditional sports? How is that even a thing? These guys put in more hours than anyone playing traditional sports. They play 8 to 10 hours, if not more, a day practicing, watching VODs, watching back film of how matches went. And they put their all into this. They definitely do a lot of work that I think a lot of people don't really understand.
Well, I think as well that the way we spoke earlier about the ecosystem, like, there are some teams, I think the teams who actually have it toughest a lot of the time are the teams within the mid-tier of Counter-Strike. Like, I have friends in, like, for example, a team called Crazy, And, well, it does go with their mentality a little bit because they have to play online qualifiers to try and get into the big events. They have to also play leagues to try and qualify for the top leagues. Then they have to play these events if they qualify. And then they're they're traveling or playing. That's pretty much their whole lives. And it's, I think for the first time in maybe like 6 months, they're finally having a break right now, which is great for them. But it honestly is. It is a grueling job. And it's definitely not like when you sort of start playing when you're younger, you play a couple of video games and you're like, hey, this is fun. It's more like a dedicated job that they have to do. And, well, some of them are very damn good at it.
That's what we talk about the mental coaches as well, because it's very mentally taxing to travel this much and to deal with the frustrations of losing matches you maybe think you should win. Either way, we can see Alternate currently 5-3. It's going to be an after-plant situation, meaning the bomb has been put down by Offset on the attack. And it's going to come down to Alternate to go for the retake. But again, their weaponry is a little shy, so they're probably going to sit back, maybe look for any exit frags, which means Offset is just trying to run away from the bomb so they don't lose their weapon, so they can take into the next round. Maybe look for a kill from that and pick up their weapon, or get naded like that, as you see a perfect little read out of Riz comes in.
So yeah, something also so we're talking about retakes here, which is obviously the process of attempting to take back the site that currently has the bomb planted. But something that's key to note, you can see a lot of the pieces of utility that they have on the right side, at least for the counter-terrorists, and there's something called a defuse kit. Now, this is pretty straightforward. Basically, you have the ability to defuse the bomb in 10 seconds if you do not have this item. For $400, which within this game is not a huge amount of money, you can purchase an item called a defuse kit, which will half the time. So definitely worth having if you have like a decent buy within the board. Obviously, for them at that point in time, the money was so poor that they wanted to make sure they had enough money for this round, and as you can see, Cressy, just next to the money on the right, currently has a defuse kit. The other thing is, as well, the other players currently have white armor versus the one with the little helmet in it, which is the difference between having head armor and just Kevlar. And if you are shot in the head when you have head armor, the chances of you surviving are a lot higher, based obviously on the amount of damage a certain gun does. And so, for example, if there was an SMG on the other side, which there currently isn't, that player would die instantly if they were shot in the head.
Yeah, and obviously we're throwing a lot of information at you. Hope you guys are keeping up with us here. But also metrics is something that people look at. Like, how do you gauge how well someone's doing or how poorly someone's doing? We have things called like ADR, which is it's the damage per round, the average damage per round that you get.
Yeah, I wonder if we can bring up the HUD and show like the more detailed stats. I know that that's a possibility to show.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you see like ADR on the left-hand side for Offset. That's how much average damage they do per round, which means Riz gets a kill on average around pretty much with 104. You can see how many kills they've gotten, how many assists they've gotten, which means they've done a good majority of damage to someone that someone else has killed, deaths as well. And there's even stats further than that, like for instance, flashbangs. Like if you're a support player, as you mentioned before, and you throw a flashbang in and you blind someone and your teammate kills them, you get a flashbang assist. And it kind of shows and gives an idea of how well people are playing. You see the flashbang being thrown in there, right?
And
just
you can see
right
it
there.
on the HUD. That is the flashbang assist that has popped up.
It's like we almost planned it to happen like that, almost. But everything is taken into account, and that's something that people do look at when it comes to signing new players.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely differences. That's actually one of the main problems in Counter-Strike is that a lot of teams have tried to just sign the very best in terms of individual skill or in terms of brand, for example, like a team like FaZe, who are a massive organization within Counter-Strike and esports in general, and that team hasn't necessarily worked because they don't have these more supportive players, or they don't have, say, for example, a dedicated in-game leader who's going to sort of lead them through, choose the strategy, set them up in the right places. Or, for example, even if you go into like sport, like go for football, you could talk about, you wouldn't necessarily sign too many players within the same position, because when you go, for example, onto a map like this, if everybody wants to play on the B site, then you have a big problem.
Yeah, very big problem. And you look at, for instance, like transfer fees. When we look at football, I guess is a really good one. Well, for instance, I mean, not uncommon. We had a player recently be signed to a French organization for $400,000. Like, that's how much they had to pay the other organizations to like get him out of that contract. There's a lot of money being thrown around when it comes to, not saying thrown around, but being used and being, I guess, like a cornerstone to some teams to build up a roster. Like you mentioned, FaZe, one of the biggest teams, but they haven't had the best performances because it shows that you can't just buy out the best players in the world and expect them to be the best team in the world.
Well, you have teams at different levels as well. Like, I think one of the things that Alternate Attacks in the past has suffered from is They are
feeder team.
They're not the biggest team within their region. You have a team literally called Big, who likes to go and pluck a lot of their players out as they bring them up. Obviously, as a business sense, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you can bring up young talent, mold them within your organization, and then sell them for a higher price, like within any traditional sport. But at the same time, it means that if this roster wants to stick together, it's a little bit more difficult, because you have the contract buyouts, you have the bigger organizations willing to pay the bigger salaries as well. So yeah, it's a whole ecosystem as within any normal scene.
You see now PR trying to push in. It's a nice little headshot on a Cressy. OBJ takes down Dude as well. So it looks like they've been able to fight their way in towards the site, but fighting their way in is only half the battle, I should say. Defending it is going to be even tougher, as you can see there. Slacks and Mantu able to chime in tandem to get two quick kills and to close out the round.
Yeah, already getting themselves a little bit further into this match, and that's where the problems could rely, because we've already seen like the Portuguese side get somewhat a surprising amount of rounds over on this T side. Like we expected a little bit less from them, in all honesty, because of how like alternate attacks are ranked in the world. But we are going to see now both teams with a full buy-in once again. A heavy amount of flashbangs for the T's, hoping to try and get themselves a little bit of space, and the double AWP setup in as well for alternate attacks, who are basically looking for that sort of pick play, get further aggressive into the map, and try and get themselves a man advantage early into this.
I'm kind of surprised that Offset's been able to do a relatively good job of preventing those ops from doing too much so far by using their utility, the smokes, being able to throw in, being able to cut off a lot of the line of sights you need to use. You can see Slack's going to be waiting, looking over towards bathrooms, which is the thing towards his right-hand side, because you know what, they're actual bathrooms. We have different call-outs across the maps. But they're going to need to deal with him, and I think a flashbang might come through to actually blind him out so he doesn't hit a shot. Instead, smoke's going to be thrown over, hopefully lock him down, but they go a little bit too early, expecting the smokes to have already plumed, and Slacks gets the first kill.
Yeah, the timing not quite there, but the flashbang's good to force him off the angle. Slacks has to fade back into the background, but the problem could be that his teammate, number 6, is slowly moving his way around. Cressy trying to get in on the flank. The problem is, though, they might actually lose this before they get anywhere near him, as Mantu's just looking to hold this down. Dude is there as well, as they slowly wipe out the Offset esports team and get themselves an 8th round on the board.
Had a decent start, getting the smokes down, getting the utility down. The problem is they used a lot of their utility to even get in towards the site, and they had nothing to defend with after the plant was actually put down, after the bomb was actually planted on the ground. So a little unfortunate for them. They weren't able to get the eliminations they wanted to early on, but credit to Alternate. Keep that composure, not worry too much, as they did, you know, encroach in on towards that A bomb site, and they're currently up 8-4, and honestly getting very close to that first 5,000 euros.
Yeah, of course, this is where things are a little bit different to the norm, as the majority of matches are played within a best of 3, but due to time constraints, we are just going to be doing a sort of map each for the team, so more of a chance for Offset, if they do lose this one, to come back into the next match and still take home some cash. Mantu, however, is not allowing that. 18-3 in terms of his kill-death ratio at the moment, and is just absolutely obliterating his opponents. The problem for Offset in this round is they don't really have the finances, so they've got no grenades. They've got nothing that can smoke him off. They've only got 3 players remaining, and also they only have pistols.
I'm not sure if you ended up actually hearing about this little like study that was done, because I remember seeing them try to compare like the physicalities between esports and traditional esports, and obviously like running, etc. is one thing, but they compared the reaction times from esports players to like Formula 1 drivers or NASCAR drivers. And actually, they performed on the same level as them as well. And you can see already with what Mantu did right there over towards the long A position, that long area who's watching, was he can react to a position really quickly. He can fling that mouse accurately and so fast to hit a pixel of a player. And you need to be able to do that, obviously, to play at this kind of level.
Yeah, and it also shows even just like the differences in, say, equipment. Like we even talk about that a lot of the time, like the different mice that people use. You have the keyboards, the monitors, you even have gaming chairs nowadays to make sure that people are sitting properly and they're not just injuring themselves while they actually play the game.
You can see now almost getting to final round. We're in the penultimate round here at currently 14 of the half. Offset, they do have the utility and the weapons to use this time, but do they have them in the right order to deal with this? And you can see Stefan just actually doing something called shoulder peek, just trying to see if anyone's there, trying to eliminate as much visibility he can to enemy teams so they can't really kill him too quickly. Now Molotov's being thrown in to actually push people out of position on the defending side. Dude's gonna push straight through the smoke, catches that one. The flashbang came through as well, but it only takes 1 player down. A little bit unfortunate for him, but Stefan's still gonna be here off towards the short position. Again, another smoke comes down to block him off, so he's gonna push through it.
Yeah, they've done so much damage and a relatively easy cleanup in the end. I think something we haven't actually spoken too much about, which I think we should probably show at some point in this game, is what the players actually see. Because although we see, like, we've seen the map and stuff, I think that the X-ray is something that we have to talk about, because in that smoke, for example, when we see him running through, we can see the outline, and there you go, you can actually see Rush showing it now. That outline is not there for the players, so if they're running through a smoke or if a smoke is down, they see absolutely nothing until they are out of it. So that X-ray, exactly, it is gone. We can see everything through the walls as just a spectator tool, but the players see a lot less, a lot more difficult for sure.
And Offset picking up the pace. It's going to be Montu playing up close and personal here, try to hit these shots. He's going to miss out on 2, unfortunately, but Dude will be there to help back him up. I think he pushed through the short tunnel to actually flank around them, and they've been able to get to the site, but they've been not able to get the bomb down, unfortunately. The pace was picked up, but the result looks like it might be the same here. PR up against 3. He's got 1 minute and 10 to work with, so he definitely has time on his side. But the player count is going to say something a little bit different here.
Yeah, and the problem is he's got so much to do. 1 versus 3. He knows where the bomb is. It pops up on his map. And it almost seems like the CT side may be a little bit unaware. They do have some positions almost ready to just try and make sure that once he gets that bomb down, there's nowhere he can go. They've got control of the long monster spot of short, and also from the flank. You can see Cressy slowly going around just to try and make sure he can't go anywhere.
Timing.
And yeah, Cressy doesn't actually find out the information just yet. The clock is ticking. The CT still have to try and get onto the site, but they do have the kits available to them. So it'll only take 5 seconds to defuse that bomb, and there's so much for PR to do.
And he's hiding because he's waiting to hear the sound of the defuse to come through. You can hear it, and he knows where the bomb is planted. He's trying to spray through it. The bomb is being stuck, though, and it doesn't matter. Slack's going to get the final kill, and all taking to end that first half, an 11-4 scoreline. I mean, it's not insurmountable. That's not a lead that you're looking at and being like, all right, well, this map's over. This is done and dusted. No, you can come back from these, but it's going to come down to how well Offset can now brush off that first half, mentally kind of stay fit, right? Stay focused on the game, ignore what happened in the first half, and then go into this with a fresh new mindset.
Well, the other thing as well is we sort of brushed over the pistol a little bit in the first half of the game because it was so fast. Like, it was a few seconds, but the pistol normally sets you up economy-wise to give you the chance to win the next maybe 2 or 3 rounds. Like, it's not guaranteed, but you can definitely make sure that you set yourself up for the half. So, for example, if Offset on this CT pistol managed to win it, they'll be in a good position to actually come back into this game. However, if Alternate Attacks win it, they're only a couple of rounds away from closing out this match.
Well, we can see it looks like the attacking side of Alternate now, as they have swapped sides, able to get to the B site. 3 players of Offset are going to be waiting over towards short as they're going to rush through, but they're rushing through directly into a shooting gallery. Mantu and Slack's able to help pick up the first. Now it's going to be a 2-on-2, but Stadude is going to be able to respond, and Offset's going to be able to actually take the site back and get the defuse through as well.
Yeah, this will set them up with at least an opportunity, but the way that purchases actually go within this game is getting the bomb down for the T side at least can actually give them a decent chance to actually buy into this round. So we'll see if they risk it. Like, this is what we call a force buy scenario, where you can either save your cash and then have the opportunity to buy in the next round, or you can invest your money and basically try and win the current one. Now,
risk it for a biscuit.
Yeah, Alternate Attacks have kind of gone for a little bit of a middle ground. They haven't bought head armor on the majority of players. In fact, some of them haven't bought any armor at all, and they haven't bought many grenades. So this is more of an attempt to do damage and get that bomb planted so that you can make some extra money for yourself for the next round. However, so far it's not been going great, but even just 2 kills in this round for them with the amount they invested is not bad.
Did have an opportunity. You saw Cressy come through short. He actually had a player dead to rights. Slacks to make it even more expensive as he gets another kill on the board. That was 3 for him in that round. But either way, Alternate, they weren't really expecting to win the round, but they did a lot of economical damage to the other team, so it sets them up nicely going into this run.
Yeah, this is where we will see them purchase. The most common guns that you see on that terrorist side are going to be the AK-47, which I'm sure is one that's almost infamous even just around the world, but the SG is another. Now, they haven't actually purchased it, so I'll definitely bring that up when it happens, because it's a scoped weapon alongside the AWP. But we can even see a little bit of a mixture on the CT side. So you've got the AUG, which is the SG's counterpart, and it also has a scope and does slightly more damage. But then the real problem for them is the SMG, which is on Just, which is very good in the close range, fires off high amounts of bullets very quickly, but does a lot less damage than any of the other weapons we currently have on the board.
And that's what obviously, like, there's a couple discrepancies between the main weapons of both sides. You mentioned the AUG, the AUG, and the SG. And you also have the M4A4 versus the AK. And the M4A4 doesn't get a one-shot instant kill to the head if they have head armor, but the AK does. So typically you'll see people picking up the AKs to use on the counter-terror side, the blue side. You see the push of Alton again, coming back towards B. A little bit of frustration, as well as you can see on the screen there. But they're going to be able to take the site. And what's their defense against us? They have 2 players to combat with, but those 2 players are just going to be saving because they realize if we go in and die, well, we're going to have nothing in the round next.
Yeah, and that's actually something else that sort of differs for either side. If the bomb is planted, the Ts will always make themselves some money. But for the Ts otherwise, if the... Oh, no. So this is called a knife. This is not something I thought I would have to actually explain. A knife gives you more money than anything else within the game. You get $1,500 for getting a knife kill. But it is incredibly rare. It's only a one-hit kill to the back.
Yeah.
So if you catch your opponent with their pants down, then it's a little bit more possible.
To be honest, it's not about the money. It's about the bragging rights after. It's about getting in their heads.
Yeah, the mental game of Counter-Strike.
We've seen a couple of people actually throw matches almost. Actually, wasn't as simple that did one not too long ago from Navi, one of the most prolific players in the game at the moment. Tried to go for a knife, it failed, and it actually cost them the map.
Yeah, it definitely has come back to bite people in the past, and there's been plenty of almost controversy going for that level of kill. But this round, at least, alternate attacks still in the driver's seat, although an AK has passed hands over onto the CT side. But yeah, I'm surprised Riz is actually doing that much. He's managed to get himself a couple of kills and make things costly for the T side, maybe reduce their purchase, but the chance of winning is still slim. It's mainly up to him as Just only has a P250, a $300 pistol, which, as you can see from the finances of every player, they can currently afford it, so it's definitely not something you really want to have in your hands. And yeah, Riz is probably just going to try and hold on to this gun, because that's something that he can keep into the next round. As I was saying, the counter-terrorists make money no matter what happens in the round, so they'll be still getting the loss bonus. The only way the Ts don't is if they run out of time, which doesn't happen very often.
Or even, I guess, technically dying after the timer as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's like a 3-second window to be able to kill people after a team has one around, whether it's a defuse, a bomb explosion. So we're going to see, it looks like he will be able to save this most likely. Again, the mini-map, they can't see that in game, but for viewers who get to watch and be able to see this from their own point of view, they can see what's currently happening, where people currently are, and also helps us. Like, there's a lot of tools in-game that help us do our job.
That's worth mentioning.
Yeah,
you can see your own team, and if you are the T side, you can see where the bomb is. But for the counter-terrorists, again, they can see their own team, but they can only see the bomb once they actually see it on their screen. So, for example, if they look at it on the map, it will appear. And the same way, if you are walking around and you see an opponent, a little red dot will come up on the screen if you are playing from the player's point of view. But people watching at home don't really have to worry about that. You get everything. You get to see where all of the players are. You get to see them through the walls, as mentioned previously. And that's why we could see that this is about to be a bit of a bloodbath, as there's 4 players all coming together in the connector. And it is actually going to be the CT side coming out heavily on top. Again, Riz with that saved weapon from the previous round, getting 3 kills, but it's quickly fallen apart.
Yeah, Slack's able to get a quick little 2-piece himself, 2 kills for his name. Now it's going to be down to a 2-on-2. Just actually pushed through the Molotov. You can see the red health bar now shrinking. He took a hefty amount of damage, 72. Luckily, they're able to net themselves 1 kill from this one, but that's going to make it even more realistic for Cressy to be able to pull off the after-plant situation. The bomb is down. You can see the red timer ticking up on the top middle-hand side of the screen. And he's actually going to go straight through the smoke. So these 2 players on the CT side are trying to find out where he is, try to get that information and be able to kill him so they can safely go for the defuse. That's going to be a tap. And that's going to be a kill coming in through. And Offset going to keep themselves alive and go up to 7.
Yeah, very nice shot from Stododo as well, because you may be wondering, why is armor so important within this game? Because, again, it's not something we've really mentioned so far. Now, there's 2 types. There's the Kevlar, which is basically your chest armor, and then you have head armor, which they cost different amounts, $650 for the Kevlar, and then a full $1,000 for the head armor. And if you don't have it, if you are shot in the chest, your gun or your crosshair within the game will go up, which is obviously a massive problem if you're about to shoot in football and someone could do something that would make you kick it a lot higher, maybe kick out your legs, I suppose. That's basically what it's like not having any armor. So it's definitely something that's important within this game. You only really see it not bought if the money is not there.
Well, now we're into round number 21. We will not be doing overtimes. Typically, whenever it's 15-15 at the end of the 2 halves, we do play out a couple more rounds to see who wins. It's generally dependent on the tournament organizer. But
they take money out of the issue. That's the difference. It's basically if you can't complete it over 30 rounds with the economy of the game, they try and make money less of an issue by giving you something to start with.
Great hold here as well, coming out of Offset. Some good flashbangs coming through and some great shots as well. Dude going to be the last alive, and he won't really have a chance to win this round. So Offset really coming out strong here, and that's what we were kind of saying. After the first half score, we were saying maybe Offset's going to be out this map. Maybe it'll look better into our second map, which is something we'll get into later on. But they are starting to come together. The momentum is starting to be on their side, and momentum is something you can never scoff at, whether it is traditional sports or it's esports. It's definitely like a 6th member on the team. I guess if you don't include the crowd, which will be the traditional 6th member. But it's something that you always favor to have when you can possibly, and it's something you can never take lightly as well if you're on the other team. You cannot afford to let too many rounds slip away from you. And I think that's what we're seeing Alternate here, just go for the save. They have a couple of P250s in there, but not really too much invested into this round. Max 700 total out of Sheffen.
Yeah, this should be a relatively easy round. And also, this is a confidence-building round for Offset. This is their opportunity to pretty much clear everything up. You can see Stefan playing more of a lurk role, which basically just means that his team was going one way and he was waiting on the other side of the map to try and stop anybody pushing, stop them having map control, because it's something that's very valuable in Counter-Strike, is the information game, because you can maybe send your players to a certain position on the map to try and cover it off. For example, right now, you'll notice there's nobody from the CT side on B, and that is because they currently have control of the bomb. So without the bomb, the Ts can't really do too much unless they're just going to eliminate every single player, which easier said than done.
Oh, nice little shot coming through. I wonder if actually in this next round we can show our observer Rush again, like during the round. And obviously you can see what he sees because he has 2 monitors next to him. One is for obviously like his main point of view, the program feed technically that we're getting from him. But then he also has another screen which is just straight the mini-map. It's what we see in the top left-hand side, but full screen. So it allows him to help direct and help predict where the action is going to go down. In other titles, for instance, like a game called Players Unknown Battlegrounds, you have like 60 people playing at one time, and you have multiple observers watching set teams, and then you have like an observer director. So he's basically choosing what we see on the main feed and helping guide a sort of storyline. So he has to pay attention to all the different things that are happening around the map and choose the best suited position to go to. Yeah, you can see there, right-hand side, he's got the minimap, so he's watching that mostly to see where the action can come down. And then he has these little numbers you can see on the minimap if you're able to notice it. That relates to the players on the left and right-hand side of your screen, so you can hit that button and go to that player.
Yeah, so his left screen is very similar to what you see, and then the right screen is basically what we have in the top left to just work out where he thinks the game is going to go and try and basically tell the story. So a massively important role. We've also brought up the map at the bottom as well, just to try and give you a little bit more of an idea of what he is looking at. But yeah, it definitely, I would say observers are one of the key pieces of the puzzle. If you have someone who is not necessarily doing observing as their job and just tries to give it a go, sometimes it makes the job of commentating a lot more difficult.
It's basically a full-time job. Like, you do have people in esports who that is their job, is to be observers. From different tournament organizers to different games, it takes a hell of a lot of work to be able to be one of the best when it comes to that. Just like commentating, just like playing as well. Speaking of playing, Dude's going to actually make a nice play towards Riz, over towards long A position. Shododo is going to be there to help assist, though. Takes down Cressy. Men's just going to push through. And this is the man we were looking at. He's been such a ridiculous player when it comes to his stats in the last 3 months. I'm not going to go too deep into it, because obviously it would be kind of like a little bit difficult to explain if you don't pay too much attention to Counter-Strike, but he is one of the best players in the server from recent history.
Yeah, he's consistent as well. I think that's the most important thing. It's like the amount of positive kills he's getting in terms of deaths are way, way higher than, well, a lot of people would normally get. There's an aggressive peek coming in from Dude, just going to be trying to turn this back into a 1 versus 1. Slack's left alone, and he's going to connect the shot. That's an important break back, actually, from alternate attacks. Gets them their 14th, gets them 2 away from taking the first €5,000 check home.
I wonder if we actually show how many rounds, or how the rounds have actually gone so far during this match. I believe there was a pretty big streak going for Offset there on the defending side. They won quite a few in a row. You can see there they won 3 in a row in round 28, 21, 22. You can actually see round 20 was from defusing of the bomb. Round 21, 22 was just from kills alone, as well as 23 for Alton, able to get up those eliminations. And look at this again, Drudge charging straight through into this B site. Mantu's able to get one. Stefan and Dude one apiece as well. Riz on the quick rotate. He also has OBJ coming in from short as well. He's going to smoke it off to maybe... Well, actually, I'm not even sure why he's smoking that position necessarily, because he can't even see the bomb being planted now. He's just going to have to hope to know where it's going to be placed and get the spray down. But he pushes the smoke with the assist of the flashbang, and it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and the way this map works, we could have even seen alternate attacks go back up the stairs onto A. Of course, this round was a fast play. The B site is closer to where they spawned, so they tried to just almost match the pace that the CT side got there. And you could see, based off economy alone, OBJ has decided, I need to keep the AWP. It is one of the most expensive guns, at least in play within the game. It is 4,950. There are some weapons that are not really viable, which cost a bit more, or are just hated by the community. That isn't purchased too often, but the AWP is definitely the most expensive weapon that you will see in every single game.
You can see, again, some stats coming in. We talked about Mantu before. He's currently at 25 kills so far, and he's died 10 times. But on average, he's doing 100 damage per round, which equates to how much HP one player does have.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's actually getting 1 kill per round, but it means that's how much damage he's doing. He could do 50 to player A and 50 to player C, and that's how he's got the 100 himself.
Yeah, you would say that roughly about 80 or so is good within a game. Like 80 damage around is good. So the fact he's got over 100 is very impressive, and I'm pretty sure any player going into a match would take over 100 ADR at the beginning. So
I would just be happy to get double digits when I play.
Well, 15-9. The buy from the CT side, although in weaponry is pretty good. They've got a fair amount of utility missing, but they have managed to find the opening pick, which always going to be advantageous. You can look to just try and trade off the different kills available to you, and that will, well, just mathematically win you the round.
We do have 3 players, though, on the B side here to defend this one as well, so they've actually predicted the direction Alternate's going to be going. Will the prediction pay off as they're only able to get a couple of kills, 3 for themselves? They lost 1, so Justice not going to be too disappointed with him going down as they're able to get the assist from his teammates. And Riz, again, on the quick rotate. So now if you're Alternate here, if you're the in-game leader, and if you start to catch on to this, that Riz has been rotating really quickly, what they could do is just go for a fake towards B, which means you throw in flashes and smokes and Molotovs as if you're going to be hitting this B site, but in actuality, you're going towards the A site, going a different direction. So you pull people out of their defensive positions, and then you kill them and take the sites from them.
Yeah, the
they lost the
problem
bomb.
is the bomb. Yeah, it's a long rotation back. As you can see, Cressy's going to try and go all the way around the map and back to the other side. PR is ready and waiting for this. He's just going to watch the stairs, and he may even hear the footsteps. Sound, again, a massive, important part of this game. And while he's going to hear him coming, and it's very, very easy for him to get that kill. That should be pretty much the round done. Slack's left, 1v3, only 15 seconds left on the clock, and it takes 3.5 to plant the bomb. The fact is the bomb's completely surrounded as well, so he basically has to kill everyone, and he just doesn't have enough time to do it. So it will be the fallback, a 10th round on the board for Offset. But there was a nice couple of kills in there. Like one of the things that is worth mentioning is one of the kills from Slacks was actually through the fence. So there are kills that you can get within this game, or even there, 2 kills went through the corner of the wood. So certain materials within certain maps are actually, well, some are destructible, like the door that you see in the connector, you could just destroy that completely, or some you can just shoot through, like some of the wooden panels. So there's a lot of knowledge that goes into specific maps, like places where you can maybe shoot through, like the corners of walls, you can sort of clip a bullet through there. Obviously, if you're just trying to shoot through a giant brick fountain or something like that, it's not going to work, or it will do so little damage that it doesn't really matter.
And then it even goes beyond that. The amount of knowledge you have to have per map is ridiculous. For instance, knowing like what pixel of the grass to stand on here, then what pixel of the cloud to look at to throw a smoke that lands perfectly in this position that'll cover off a certain angle. There's a lot of training, a lot of practice that goes into being able to throw those properly, and like throwing a flashbang so it pops, it explodes right in front of someone's face. So they don't have time to turn around to mitigate how much damage or how much it blinds you. And you can see some quick little shotgun shots with the AWP coming in of OBJ. Eventually he will be cleaned up, which gives Slacks back the AWP. Dodo, though, going to be waiting. Flashbang comes through, but again, he turns away from it so he doesn't get blinded up, and they get the quick kills to get them again. One step closer to tying things up.
Yeah, of course, as mentioned, if it is a tie, we are going to be splitting the money between the 2 teams, so I'm sure Alternate Attacks probably not be too happy with that. They say sharing is caring, but I'm sure they're not willing to give away half of their prize pool for the first map, so they're going to be looking to try and close this early. They don't have the best of buys, but it's not bad. The Galil is basically a budget AK-47, doesn't do quite as much damage, and is a little bit more difficult to use.
Well, it doesn't have the best part of the AK is the one-shot headshot either when they're wearing head armor. So again, you need to have the mastery of different weapons. Again, the Galil will have a different spray pattern when you hold the button down versus an AK. So again, you have to be able to like adapt on the fly to what you need. But it's not a bad start, able to equalize things, getting 1 apiece. PR is down to 2 HP. So we could see Alternate maybe stop the rot in terms of sharing money. Just need to take this round. Luckily for them, they still have 3 more chances for it. They don't win this one.
That is a perfect example of a wallbang. So he just shot through the wooden panel. You can see the bullets flying through it at the moment, that's purely based on knowledge of the map. So there's very likely to be players standing behind that. The T's themselves will also look to shoot through that little piece of wood, and the amount of damage he was just able to do was ridiculous. Just got a kill without even being able to see his opponent.
High risk, high reward too, because if you do shoot through it, people generally know where you're going to be back. So if you miss your shots, they're going to hit you back, maybe kill you, maybe do hefty amount of damage to you. OBJ can be left to defend the site by himself with Stududu. They're able to push in. It looks like they're able to lock this one down relative ease. Stududu able to get 2, OBJ able to get 1, and that's going to be another round again going over to the CT side.
Well, yeah, and this is, again, something we mentioned about the sides of this map. That was an 11-4 counter-terrorist half. So Alternate Attacks, when they were on the blue side, managed to get 11 rounds. Since then, while being on the orange side, Alternate Attacks have managed just 4. So it is a comeback. Offset bringing things back, but at the moment, the max they can have is a draw. As said, in sort of normal play, we would have the overtime available to us, but obviously then the show might drag on a little bit in this sort of scenario, especially when we have a second map coming up just afterwards. Man-2, however, even with the pistol, as said, a very small investment. That gun, in fact, if you get a kill with it, it pays for itself. And Cressy's going to be looking to do the same, just trying to reduce the amount of money that Offset currently has.
Yeah, again, not really expecting to win the round. And now we'll see Offset take their 13. So we're going into the next round here, round number 29. I'll do some quick math on air. And we'll see if math never works out for us on air. And we'll see how things are going to change here, as that was obviously a save coming in for Alternate. They're going to go back on the buy. Again, pretty much full utility for the entire team. Cressy, the only one missing out on a couple of grenades. And the Molotov already doing some decent damage here. That one was actually thrown over towards middle, right when they get out of their own connector. You can see on the mini-map the clumping of the terrorist side. But I feel like they've changed up their style. And again, if you're the in-game leader, this is something you have to pay attention to. You have to realize, all right, we've gone B a majority of the rounds in this half. Maybe we should change things up and head towards A. Or maybe we realize, hey, Offset like to actually get aggressive for information. They like to push out so they can find where we are and then use that information to, rotate their players. So they're sitting further back, expecting those rotations to happen. But unfortunately for them, Offset have changed their stride this time here and actually played more passive.
Yeah, they've still gained a lot of map control, though. So, for example, they've taken so much control on the B side of the map with the aggression there that it's kind of scripted almost where they're going to be going. Like, 3 players are now ready and waiting on A. They're already going to be throwing out a fair bit of utility in an attempt to slow down any push. And with 45 seconds left on the clock, Alternate Attacks pretty much have to make their decision now to make their way in, because the worst thing you can do as the T's is run out of time.
Yeah. And here we go, about 35 seconds left on the clock, and they're going to start to make the push through. Riz in a very aggressive position, gets a spray down onto 2 players. I didn't even see the second one come through, but OBJ is going to be there to help defend. You even have Stududu rotating in at the same time from the CT spawn, where they do start off in the map each round. Slack's going to push up, gets the kill onto Stududu. They do have the bomb in their hands. Problem is they have to worry about Just, who's flanking him from behind, and he's actually able to take down Dudes, who's going to come down to Slacks, and Slacks won't be able to do much more than to get that bomb planted. And we're going to go the full distance here, Tom. We're going to get that last round of the first map.
It's going to all 30, a chance for the money to either be split or it will all be going to Alternate Attacks for this first one. But it has been a strong comeback either way from the Portuguese side. As said, they came into this as fairly heavy underdogs based off the current rankings, but we are now sat 15-14, the last chance for the German side to close this.
And last chance for Offset here to take 2,500 euros. If they win this round, they will split the money in this first map. And considering the 11-4 scoreline in the first half, I think that's going to be more than happy to be able to get a bit of money on their side. And of course, we still have one more map to come up, which will be another 5,000 euros. That'll be a different map, and we'll explain what that means necessarily when we do get towards it. At the moment, we're all focused on the team here on your screen, Alternate, with their destiny in their own hands. They're looking to make a push towards Long A, and they do have at least one SG out of Slack, so it's going to be hard. The SG doesn't really work as well as the AWP from this range. They both do have scopes, but obviously the AWP gives you a little bit, well, it gives you 2 scopes, actually. You can go even further in than what you can see. But he's actually been tagged up quite a bit. He might be locked into this position. But again, using that utility, using that smoke to actually get away. The incendiary grenade being thrown down to delay the push from coming through. And now Alternate, with not much utility left to use, are going to have to commit it here and hope they can take the site.
Yeah, every nade going to be thrown in as the flashbangs are thrown out to try and counter them. Riz is left completely blind, but Stododo's doing the work, and he has support as well. They stick the man advantage, and they just haven't been able to clear this man. Cressy tries his best, but it's left all onto Slacks. 1 versus 3, gets the first, but it isn't going to be happening, and it's all square in the end, as it will be a 15-15 scoreline, and the money split.
And again, you see right there, 2,500 for each team picked up in that first map. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you could have a phenomenal first half scoreline, 11-4. It's not the best scorelines we've seen, but it's really good. And then to not be able to close it out when you swap sides. We obviously have teams with maps they really prefer over others, and we have sides that teams prefer over others as well. Would we like to defend, or we like to attack? Obviously, you have to play both out in the entire match. But Alternate seemed to be a lot more confident when it came to that CT side. Or maybe I should say Offset looked more confident when it came to that defending CT side.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. And actually, interestingly, the map we go into next is also one where we expect to see more rounds on the counter-terrorist side. So although you could be expecting an even scoreline to be something like 8-7 or 7-8, whichever way you want to look at it, it is never the case. Like, most of the time, each map has its favored side. So, for example, on this map, you would expect around 9 to 10 rounds on the CT side as the norm. So when we saw an 11-4, it's not something to completely blow your mind. The fact, though, the Onset still had that mental capacity, even after being knifed, even after being sort of knocked back so far, to bring the game back, that takes something a little different.
Well, we're going to see, obviously, move into our second map. And I guess we can kind of talk about it a little bit in terms of, like, how things work in esports. Obviously, it's not like you're playing on the same pitch every time, like in football or soccer. I guess it depends where you're from, how you want to hear it. Things change. It's more like I said football first. Don't worry. But it's more like what we were saying before the show actually started. It's more like Formula One. You have different tracks you play on. Some drivers prefer certain tracks that have like certain turns or whatever. Certain teams have certain maps they prefer to play on than others.
And I wasn't really expecting that in terms of the entire game, like a split. I mean, I know usually in Counter-Strike you wouldn't get a split, you wouldn't be sharing that money, we'd go to overtime, but do you think that's going to be really upsetting for Alternate Attacks? Is that something that's going to affect them going into the next one?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they'll reset. Obviously, they're the more experienced team, so they're the ones that have been in this situation many times before. Of course, Offset has still played within their region, but no, I still favor Alternate Attacks going into the next map as well.
Well, it is even Steven between the two teams, but Matt Andrews is going to be on the stage with one of the players to find out a little bit about how they play.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, I have Mansu here on our stage with Alternate Attacks, coming out of that first map in Attire, which I think you were a little bit surprised about.
Yeah, it was surprising. They did a good comeback. They played well on the CT side, and yeah, it's just one of those games.
We'll get another one. Looking forward to seeing what happens on our second map, but I'm going to take you back, Mansu, and we'll talk about the life of a player. So for you, if I can, I'm not sure how distant we're going to go back here, but what was it like for you when you started out before any of this became your life and your career? Were you into sports? Were you competitive, or was it just gaming?
Well, I was into sports, like pretty sure every esport player before playing video games. I started competing, like really competing back in 2016. That was my first LAN in Copenhagen, where I was at a team called No Org, which basically means no organization, so I had to pay everything for myself. I went to LAN in Copenhagen, so I had to carry the PC all the way from England to Copenhagen in my suitcase, and yeah, it was a fun experience, honestly, like, because I have like Polish parents, so it was hard to convince them that video games is a thing, it's a job. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because this sort of thing takes a lot of support structure, doesn't it? So before you needed to say, hey, I'm going to try and make this my life, you were competitive, you tried lots of things. Was pro gaming and doing this for a living where you thought you would be, what you wanted to do, or was there like another calling that you had beforehand?
Well, I went to school and I was going to go into medicine, but I was doing video games as obviously a side thing until obviously the money started coming in, the organization started contacting me. But yeah, it was a side thing until like I realized in my uni after I finished third year, like this is really what I want to do. And I got the professional contract, and I just want to take this opportunity and just play professionally, see how it goes.
It must have been on your mind for a while. You're doing well. You put in more work. People are noticing you. You're playing in, I guess, smaller lands and sort of community tournaments and picking up some money there. The no-org thing, how did that come about? Did they approach you, or is it kind of more of a sort of fluid thing getting formed by everybody?
Well, the no-org thing was just basically 5 friends just playing together. And then, yeah, we were just competing, and then we were just trying to find any organization just to, take us under their wing and just, like, give us any sort of, like, just salary or anything just so we can get going, just show our skills and, yeah.
This happens now as well on any game, on any of the esports that we have all over the world. There are teams now called Orgless or some variety of that in many titles who are trying to get spotted and trying to get signed. It's tough, isn't it? What was the tipping point for you? What was the point which made you think, I'm going to try harder, I'm going to play more, I'm going to be better?
Well, I always had a stubborn character, so I always just, played a lot, grinded a lot. But I think the focal point was when I got contact from Alternate Attacks, which I'm playing under right now. And yeah, that was when I was like, okay, this is serious. I'm going to go professional, and yeah, I'm going to try my hardest.
And that takes belief, too. It's not just that decision of like, shall I? You had a medical career lined up. This is where we are now. So for Alternate Attacks, what's it like for you at this level? You go to an event. This is obviously a show match, but if you go to, the Meisterschaft finals or something, tell me about what it's like for you turning up with your teammates, all German, and playing actually at a tournament together.
Yeah, it's great. We travel all across the world, honestly. We get free hotels, free food. We see beautiful cities just like Amsterdam, just like this one. And honestly, it's great. We're playing with, 5 good friends, and we're just having a good time. Although you do play 10 hours a day, these little things like traveling to Amsterdam, they're really enjoyable and, yeah, make it really good.
We'll get to see some more of Mansu in our second map. Good luck, and thanks for that.
I'm happy for you. I did that for myself in another game on a weird bet about eating chilies, but it's nice to be in a game for once. We're not going to go into that. It's a different game completely. But I actually liked in the interview, by the way, they were talking about how, trying to find like an org to sponsor them. I think people need to realize that at the tippy top, yeah, this is their full-time job. They play this game day in, day out. This is what they do for a living. But then, like, as you start to trickle down into the lower regions of like the skill or the teams, you have players who are doing a full-time job, like 9 to 5, and then they go home and then do this as a full-time job. And there's a lot of grinding, a lot of work you have to put into it, and a lot of passion that's required to be a professional player.
I think a lot of people don't realize that as well. So it is nice that we get to highlight that for these players. You guys carry on.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, as we're moving into train, as we mentioned before, and love the little background behind us as we're in the game. This does feel good. But we should mention, as we saw it before, like there's different maps. There's like, I think 7 in the pool currently within CSGO, and maps get taken in, they get taken out, they get changed a little bit by the developer, which is Valve in this case. And teams have to be able to play all these maps. It's not like you can be good at one map and expect to win everything. You have to be able to play all these different maps, which again requires learning the different positions, learning what you can and cannot shoot through, learning what pixel to sit on, what pixel to look at to throw your smokes, working on timings as your entire team. Like there are teams who will literally sit there for hours on end on a server and just do strat A, and they literally down to a timing get it down perfectly and make sure like the flashbangs don't exactly when the player's coming out of this position. It's a lot of work and a lot of preparation that comes into it, especially like a map like Train. It's a very difficult map. It's a very sided towards the CTs, the defending team.
I think as well you have to talk about more of the community aspect of it, because like for example in football, let's use that as an example, that's my favorite example, you would train against your own team, you would train against your own players. In Counter-Strike it's much more of a community idea, like you will play practice matches every single day against other teams around the world, like obviously normally within your region, otherwise there might be a few issues, but all the guys in Europe are constantly scrimming against each other, playing different matches, and you never know, we may have even seen Alternate Attacks and Offset playing matches against each other, just not on the servers we have today.
All right, well, they were able to tie out in the first game. Let's see if we can actually get a clear decider in match number 2. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Getting paid per the word that he does say. Trying to keep it down to a minimum. But no, thank you very much. Yeah, we are heading into our second map. Currently, the prize pool is split between the two teams at $2,500 apiece. But we'll see if he continues to go that route with a $5K for each team, or we will have one team come ahead. Now, as you can see, the map looks completely different than what we just saw. You can see a couple similar textures, but in general, the map is completely different. You can see on the mini-map towards the top left-hand side, it looks completely different as well. So now we're seeing an inside and an outside site when it comes to train. We're currently on the inside side, obviously, because we're inside of this little factory. And it's very hard for the T side to get in here cleanly, as you can see, just able to take down Slacks. But they quickly, again, like on Overpass, transition to another site. This is the outer bomb site, as they try to go for the bomb plant, it looks like.
Yeah, it almost seemed like Slacks was just there as a little bit of a ruse to try and throw them off from the push. It is going to be the T side, though, just picking up these frags. It's left down to just Riz remaining 1 versus 2. The bomb already planted. He has managed to retrieve himself a kit alongside his armor, so he does actually have a good bit of time to play with. The problem is he needs someone to face him, and Man2 may have had enough after the last map not going their way in the end, and has going to start things off with the pistol.
Yeah, he's looking to play it again. Like, you see the passion when he was talking about it, that they just wanted to find an org, they wanted to find someone that believed in them. They're all really good friends, so you're going to travel around the world is honestly a dream come true for anyone. But even with that fact, they're not going to be happy. I don't think anyone is going to be happy in Counter-Strike or in any top level of an esport unless they're the best team in the world. And that, even then, you still have to put in just as much time, if not more, to maintain that position.
Yeah, that is the goal. That is the aim. Of course, the beginning goal, as he said, for a lot of it was just to get signed to a team.
And to show you how far esports have come, back in my day, I feel really old saying that, back when I was playing, like, we were happy just to get a sponsorship for a server where you play on it.
Yeah.
Like your own server that you can control the configs and stuff and play the way you want to and stuff like that. We were happy just for that, or like a program, like a server hosted, so we could talk to each other, like with our voices, with the microphones. Nowadays, you get top teams making, you know, upwards of like $20,000 or 20,000 euros a month with salary.
Well, you look at the prize pools as well. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I remember talking to Banks, a friend of ours from who used to play back in the day as well, and when he would win a tournament, he'd get a keyboard or a monitor,
right, yeah.
And that was a big deal. Now there's $1 million tournaments with the winner taking home $500,000 between them.
There was so one player way back, like 2014 maybe, around 2014, named RPK. He signed to a team for like a Big Mac meal and a year subscription to an auto magazine. That's what he signed. That was his sign like bonus. Like that's what he signed on for. And then now you look at today, a player was traded for 400,000 euros. So obviously it's grown quite a bit since then, but so has every other aspect of it.
Big Mac meal is a pretty good deal, to be fair. It depends what he got with it, you know.
I don't know. I mean, the McFlurry machine was probably broken, let's be honest. But all to have an early start, again, what you're going to kind of expect when it comes to winning the pistol round. You can see a currently 2-0 lead for them. And Do just going for a quick little peek. Again, not only besides all the facts that you know a pixel to stand on and throw, also your spawns. When you actually start the round, on every round, it changes. And I think there's like a set way they happen, but there's set positions you can start in. And on some maps, if you get like a forward spawn, like a spawn that's like really far up ahead of your team, you're sometimes gifted a weapon like the AWP that you're not normally like really good at, or you're not normally main for your team, just to get to a certain position just quick enough to beat out the other enemy players. So there's a lot of, again, like mid-game calls that happen where, you know, almost halfway through this round, there might be some calls made to change up the way they're going to attack this actual site. But so far, it looks like Offset been able to defend. But again, the lack of head armor, you can see we talked about the aim punch and how it changes his recoil like crazy. He didn't have a potential for a shot, and now Riz is going to be all alone against 3.
Yeah, and he's probably just going to make the decision to save. As you can see, he keeps switching between his gun and his knife. Now, the only real practical thing we've seen from the knife so far is to stab someone in the back and gain a load of money. But there are other reasons to have that. Now, movement is a massive part of Counter-Strike. So different guns, for example, or different, say, for example, your pistol, you'll be able to move slightly faster with it. With your knife, you move even faster than that. So running around with your gun out, as he currently is doing, is the slowest form of movement, although the AWP is a little bit slower than that. And then you have your knife, which will give you the highest amount of speed.
Kind of contradictory to what your mother tells you when you're younger, don't run with scissors.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you run faster with knives. I don't know what it's going to do to kids these days. But Mom, I run faster in Counter-Strike with it. Yeah, either way, we're going to see Ultimate again to take the next round. so off to an early start like we had happen on the last map, except they're doing it on the attacking side this time. You can actually see a little bit of their UI actually in the game and how they do move around and bind up the weapons within the economy system. And we talk about like traditional sports, certain players like certain shoes or like certain equipment to use when playing. Well, these guys like not only different like mice, different keyboards, different mouse pads, chairs, but also they have different settings within the game that they can change on their computer. Some like to actually squish the screen a little bit closer together so things are a little bit bigger, so the models are bigger, make it look bigger. It actually isn't bigger, so they can hit shots a little bit easier. You can see a little bit of a chase coming out of offset, and actually that's a decent amount of damage done. But every player has different settings.
Yeah, no, big. Even just like the certain brightness of your monitor or the sensitivity of your mouse, like the further you move it, for some players will turn them a lot more. Like it really is. Like everybody has their own settings, everybody has their own setup. Like I know that there are players, as you said, who have to like measure out certain things or have like a lot of tournament organizers nowadays have adjustable desks. Just because there are players who go, okay, I can't play like this because it's too high. I've definitely seen tournaments where they don't have that, and I've watched guys stack up about 10 different boxes just so they can have their arms perfectly balanced, because although for a lot of players it does make a difference, for some it will just be a mentality thing.
Exactly, yeah. Like, for instance, the player talking about, he would actually bring a ruler with him to events. It was Flash from StarCraft 2, which is a real-time strategy game. And he would measure out like the distance from the keyboard to the monitor, the mouse pad to the keyboard. He would measure out the distance from the monitor to himself, everything down to a science, just so he played more comfortable. Whether or not it actually made him play better or worse, doesn't matter. It made him feel more comfortable and made him play the way he wanted to play. And he was considered one of the best players all time of StarCraft.
Here we go. 4-0, a great start for the T side as well. This is a map where you expect the counter-terrorists to get the majority of the rounds. It is a very difficult T side. A lot of the time it comes down to individual skill to actually get you into these sites. As they're pretty much straight areas that you sort of walk into, and with the CT side getting there quicker, they can hold a lot of these angles and try and stop you getting towards the bomb site. So even to just have 4 or 5 rounds as they're getting towards now, Alternate Attacks are in a very good position.
Yeah, this is definitely a map they're going to be comfortable on, and that goes back to what we're saying about what maps you're going to be good on and what maps you're going to be bad on. And Alternate is definitely seeming to prove to be one of the good ones. And we haven't even really seen like the adaptation in terms of like weaponry either, because this is one of the few maps on the blue side, the CT side, the defending side, that you'll see a double op setup, a double sniper rifle setup. You can see Stododo there. He currently has one in his hands. Problem is, again, it plays into the economy game, where if you do buy 2 of those, it costs an insane amount of money. Was it $47.50 per each gun? And then if you lose, well, then you just wasted all that money. So it's kind of a risky investment. If you're able to pull it off and do it successfully, you can kind of stay at the top and win these rounds after another. But if you start to lose them, then you're going to set yourself very far behind.
Well, ready. 5-0 for Alternate Attacks. The CT side do have a pretty decent purchase, but you can see OBJ with a single SMG with no nades available. It probably means he's about to do something very aggressive, because there's no point wasting the money into all of these grenades if you're not going to be using them. But his aggression over towards the B site, which we saw on the map, is actually not going to really do too much. And in the meantime, the T's have just run out onto this site. Unfortunately, the bomb's been dropped, though, which could actually work in the favor of the CT side. And Riz is just starting hitting everything. It's left on to Dude, the in-game leader for the side, and he won't be able to close out this round. So Offset are onto the board.
Yeah, well done by them. I think they're red into Alternates play a little bit better this time. You can see Riz again hitting a really good shot there onto the T connector, pretty much the position that the terrorists do come out of on the attacking side when they go through the middle part of the map. So able to read into that one, even though Alternate have kind of done that one in the past and able to win a round. But again, it's only 1 round. Yeah. Losing this next round, as you can see, their economy is very, very shot out. Currently 0 money for PR, just at 550. Stododo, the only one over 1,000, currently at 2K. So just because they won 1 round doesn't mean that they're back in the game. They have to win consecutive rounds. That's what it's all about here.
Yeah, the other thing to mention as well, though, is that just because the T side had won 5 in a row doesn't mean they were building up cash. A lot of the rounds are very close, and you want to have as many people surviving as you can so that you all save money and guns. So they're in trouble financially, but not in terms of the round. Mantu has just run over the Offset defense, and they have no choice but to just try and hold on to their weaponry. This is not a position where you have the time or even the manpower to get back into this B site.
Yeah, and time is a very crucial point. And again, look how much utility Alternate do have left. They have like for instance, Slacks. He's got a flashbang, he's got a Molotov, and a smoke. Then you look at Stefan, he's currently got a flashbang and incendiary grenade, which is basically a Molotov, and Mantu with 2 flashes. Like, they are able to get into that inner sight without much utility used. And that's important for them because now they get to be able to maintain it for the after plant situation. So they can use those flashbangs to stop the attack coming in. They can use the smokes to delay people because running through a smoke, the person on the other side can see you quicker than you can see them if you're the one going through the smoke, etc. So they actually delay that out really well. They take another round, and now offset again. Not much money to spend into round number 8.
Yeah, luckily they were able to keep at least a couple of weapons alive, so you can drop guns over to teammates. So say you have the money to buy a rifle, you can always spend the money yourself and then throw it over to a teammate. In this scenario, they've actually opted to just save the majority of their money and purchase into the next round more safely. So they'll have the chance here. The timing has not gone well for them as we see OBJ with that AWP, the most expensive weapon that they had on their side, already gone, although this is a risky attempt from Riz, but it does pay off. He at least kills off one, leaves his teammates in a 2 versus 3, and Cressy very low on health. So there's a good chance for a couple of kills to come in here. Just is, in fact, going to find 2 straight back, and it's left all onto Slacks, and the bomb is not planted. So he needs to not only either try and kill these players, but try and retrieve it, and it's just not going to happen.
Well done, considering offset. They lost a player right off the bat. The AWP pushed up towards the electrical box. You could have saw right there in the last second. They kind of rushed in with it. They didn't expect Alternate to come blasted out of the T connector, out of the T middle. And somehow they're able to still pull the one off the back of Just, able to get quite a few kills towards the end. So really well done by them on the CT side, considering they didn't have the rule to work with in their pockets. But now they have the double AWP set up. So Sardodo, currently number 3 with AWP sitting on 1. You have OBJ sitting on 1 as well. Currently 1 on the main map. You can see number 3 watching over towards the very north side of the map, and OBJ number 5 watching down towards the very south side of the map. So in different directions, able to lock down these long corridors, but currently Alternate are not really set to go in any of these directions.
Well, yeah. Here we go, though. Stefan. Cressy even getting a team kill. That's orange on orange, so definitely not the best way for things to go, but an AWP in the Pop Dog. That is something named because of, I think it was a sound, wasn't it, that used to be in there, and also like some sort of marking, but that has been since removed from a previous portion of the game. But yeah, him being called out in that position, definitely not going to be ideal. OBJ unable to connect either. And again, alternate attacks, they may have lost a round, but they're very quick to look for a return. The CT side seeming like they may be out of it, but by the looks of it, they may actually be caught out.
I want to go back to the Pop Dog thing really quickly, by the way, because we mentioned, like, obviously, if you play the game a lot or you watch the game a lot, you'll know a lot of these positions and what they're called. There's generic ones, like, for instance, long A. It means, like, the longest... what's the word I'm looking for? The longest, like, pathway to that position. Currently on the very north side of the map. That's, like, long A. But then you have, like, smaller positions called, like, for instance, Pop Dog, as you mentioned, which is that little ladder room we saw them sitting around towards the beginning. You have the E-box, the electrical box, which is kind of sitting out in the open towards the outside site. But then you also have positions named after players. For this map, Olafmeister, he's a player currently on FaZe Clan. He has a position in the game specifically because he became so famous for that position, for holding it and using it, that we're able to like name him after players. So it's really cool that, you know, some players get something etched into the game named after them. Some have graffiti in the game named after them from amazing plays they're able to pull off. The publishers kind of honoring those plays by actually putting like a little graffiti in the game. I don't think we can show you here anything on Train.
No.
But on Overpass there was one, but we didn't think of it to show it, I guess.
Yeah,
forgot about it.
It's a little like almost mural of like something that happened within the biggest events of Counter-Strike, which are the majors. They are actually produced by, well, they are sponsored, I should say. That's a better idea. By the game developer, and ESL themselves actually had one earlier this year, which was in Katowice. And I have to say I was there, and it was great.
Yeah,
so.
and the publisher of the game, Valve in this case, does a lot for it. They put in signatures in the game. So obviously you can see the weapons they have. There's different types of weapons, like the AK in the hands of Stefan, but then you have different skins on them as well. We can see on the AWP here for Slacks, it looks different than the default one. But they also added these stickers to the game that have the signatures of the players.
Like
you can see it's actually an organization called Rogue. And it's a player signature that you can put on guns. So you can actually immortalize yourself in the game if you're good enough and make it to these majors. And then the players actually get a cut of that money as well. So, you know, if X amount of people buy it, you get a certain amount of that directly to you. Well, it depends on your contract, I guess, with the organization.
Yeah, and a lot of these things can actually be customized as well by the tournament organizer. Like we've seen plenty of stuff like that in the past that has been thrown in. I know some organizers have done things with gloves, which are also something that has now been added in to purchase. But yeah, there's plenty of opportunities at least to put different things within the game.
Oh no, OBJ going to be all alone against 2. Trying to get the third round on the board for Offset. The problem is the bomb is ticking. He does have a kit, but with the AWP, probably one of the worst weapons you could take in a 1-on-2 situation or a 1-on-X situation when trying to get towards that bomb. And Offset will be able to net themselves their 8th round on the board, and this is where things are starting to get a little bit risky here for Offset. If they want to have a chance move into their attacking half, they're going to have to start putting up some numbers and really stop Alternate from this pace that they're currently going on.
Yeah, 8 rounds on the T side is a lot of this map. Like, this is something where you honestly would not expect to see this many, so they are firmly within the lead. Although the difference may only seem to be 6 rounds, like, this is honestly a massive amount for them. And going on to the CT side, you should expect them to close this out. So, and although that may seem like a quite demoralizing thing to say about Offset in this scenario, it really does show, like, if they manage to turn this around, how much of an uphill battle this was.
Can we actually get a replay after this round real quick of that Slacks? I'm not sure if we can pull that with our machine or whoever's there doing it. Because we talked about, again, knowing what walls you can shoot through and what walls you can't. Again, having to learn so much about the game and about the map. Well, we did see, I think it was Slacks there, actually try to go for a shot. It's a set position, and he knows exactly where it's going to hit, but he waits for the exact second that a player is supposed to be there if he's going to that position. And we've seen tons of kills actually happen in those situations too.
Yeah, it's like there's lots of innovative plays that different players can make. It makes things interesting as well when a map is taken out and another is brought back in, because then you have the sort of idea of learning a lot of these things. So yeah, this is another position as well. Those railings, you can have a couple of people stand on top of them and shoot over the top of all of it. Like, there's plenty of things you can do within this map, but in this round, at least, alternate attacks went for something a little bit more basic. A flash over the top, a push onto the site, the chance to get the bomb down and have that acting as their 6th member of the team. But OBJ may be able to do it all on his own. He really is doing damage with that AWP at the moment. The question is, can he do anything more?
Well, he did have a kit too. I don't think Riz actually picked it up. He had it from the prior round. Your inventory does carry over into the next round. So down to a 2-on-2. Stefan's going to be looking to push up. Does get caught out, but doesn't actually matter because he wins the aim battle up against PR. And now it's going to be Riz by himself against 2. Looks like he should be saving this AWP. Unfortunately, he's going to lose. And Alternate now going to be up to 9. And it looks like we might have them barreling their way through. They weren't happy with the 2,500 euros they just won the first map. They want that extra 5K added to their pocket.
Yeah, here we go. This is the exact lineup you were talking about, and that's our faces.
Yeah, you can see there. So obviously he knows exactly when someone's supposed to be there, and he was looking for the actual shot there. Didn't hit it that time, but it's a glorious thing to see because it just shows the knowledge of a player to know exactly when someone's going to be there and like when to shoot.
Yeah, there are some utterly ridiculous lineups in this map, especially
as well too.
Well, this map currently, where you just saw the player standing by the ladder in here, you can actually shoot through that wall on the right all the way from the connector, which is a ridiculous. Like, the chance of you hitting that shot is like 1 in a million, but it does show that these sort of like pro players have spent a stupid amount of time.
It's 1 in a million for players like us, but for pro players, they make it look way too easy.
Yeah, like the fact that it's even been done is madness, because it is shooting through a massive wall all the way into a completely different part of the map.
Yeah. Well, here we go. A minute left for Alternate to make this attack work. They got 3 players left, so they have the manpower to do it. Only one person actually here to defend it. It's going to be Riz. And he's going to actually take a couple of shots. And more importantly, his position right now, he should just be looking to stay alive because he knows the ball is going to be planted and he needs his teammates to rotate back in. We also have a flank coming in. Stododo looking for the shot. Not going to be able to hit it, unfortunately. Cressy going to have the better weapon in that situation. And if you're Offset here, do you save? Do you go for this? Now it's down to a 2-on-2, so it is more likely to pull off. They have a kid as well in the hands of Riz, but time is ticking away.
Yeah, it seems like they had different ideas in that scenario, maybe not communicated too well, because OBJ was already leaving as Riz was still holding to try and find something back into the round. I think it is a good notice of team play from alternate attacks, though, where you have that player in the back lines of upper, and the other 2 players are completely reliant on him. He gets that kill of the player rotating him from behind, and they're not even looking at that. they know what he's doing. He's communicating to them. You can see they have all their microphones, their headphones set up so that they are communicating to each other. And that's one of the biggest parts of this game. It's just, it is a team game. There are fantastic players in the world. I think Simple is probably the prime example of someone who's been said is the best player in the world, but he is not on the best team in the world. And well, he's never been on the best team in the world. That's something surprising about this game, that he can have the most skill, he can have the most talent, but it doesn't necessarily matter if he's not in the correct team.
Exactly. Oh, we see Mantu, nice little opening shot onto Riz. Not able to hit the shot onto OBJ, though, as they went for an aggressive stack with the defense towards the inner sight. I like how you mentioned that, by the way, because we talk about, you know, like different roles in the team. Sometimes you have players that just transcend everything. You have like your Simples, you have your Nico, who's a player, I think is still on FaceClan, if I'm not mistaken, who are just so good that they can just basically do everything and they can carry a team on their back. But you can also argue, does a team play around that player to allow them to do that as well? So it's kind of here or there in terms of how, I guess, you decide about how they play. But either way, alternate now, bomb planted. Sododo by himself. Not going to be likely to win this round, but
I mean, definitely not now.
11-2 we're looking at. Alternate are just running away like a train on this map.
I think Astralis are one of the best examples of like the differences in teams. Like I think last year they sort of had, I think they had every single player within like the top 20 of the world rankings. None of their players were listed as the best, but they definitely had the synergy. They won a ridiculous amount of tournaments and sort of made themselves a dynasty as maybe even the best team ever within this game. But no one was looking at them necessarily and saying, okay, that player is better than like Simple, who actually got rated the best player in the world. It's not about that. That's not what the game is. It's about making sure that you do have the right synergy, the right set of players. And again, you can look at it in, for example, football. Like, it pains me to say this, I'm a Tottenham fan, but Liverpool won the Champions League. Did they have the best player in every single position? No, but they did have seemingly the best team, at least in that tournament.
Again, we're seeing Molotovs come in. Something we haven't touched on, that the interaction between smoke grenades and Molotovs. The smoke grenade actually extinguishes, there we go, the actual Molotov there. So if you're currently standing in the fire, throw that at your feet and you'll be fine. But again, like even though Offset lost that Molotov, they forced Alternate to use a smoke. So it's kind of like give or take. It's like, yeah, they lost that, but they netted themselves this. They're able to force out one of the crucial utility usages that allow people to get into sites and help deter actual fights, deter those 1v1s to happen.
Well, so far it's not looking so good again. The alternate attacks are just running over this Offset side at the moment. It's left onto Just, who is going to be alone in this scenario. I think while he's trying to clutch this, we can also talk about the differences between the sides. Like, we have different weapons actually to be purchased. Like, as you said before, the M4 versus the AK. You can only buy the AK on the terrorist side of the map. There's also differences in grenades. Like, you have two different types of fire grenade, a Molotov and an incendiary. One burns for slightly longer and costs slightly more. So there's the differences there within the two sides that you have to take into consideration. That's also one of the reasons why counter-terrorist buy, like a full buy with everything they desire, is more costly. Like, a lot of the weaponry is more costly. Like the M4, even though it's considered slightly worse, is actually more expensive than the AK. So there's been a lot of balancing things done by the game developer itself to try and make sure that each side has equal opportunities. And I think that's something you have to look at in terms of this match, that in all honesty, Offset should be in the lead if this was based on a balanced map of Train. And the fact that it is 12 rounds to 2 in favor of Offset just shows how good alternate attacks are at this map.
Exactly, and if we continue to go this kind of route, if it ends up like being a 16-2 or 16-3, 16-4, it kind of shows, again, as we mentioned before, certain teams are better on certain maps.
Yeah.
They had 11-4 scoreline defending on Overpass, and then they move over into this map, and they're currently at 12-2 on the attacking half.
Well, even still, this could be a last-ditch effort from Offset to at least get themselves a couple of extra rounds onto the board. Now, in terms of this round, at least in HP, they are in a better scenario. But in all honesty, we're more looking towards what the individual players are going to do. The bomb is going to be planted. There's not really anything that the guys at Offset can do about that. And utility is at a minimal. They have a singular flashbang and no kit for that bomb defusal, so it will take the full 10 seconds. So the clock is ticking.
And we're in the last round of the half too, so you might as well commit for this one. No point in saving anymore. You can't save it in the second half. And we see the push come through, and somehow with the MP9, Soto is able to do it. It's going to come down to Cressy with 14 HP against 2 players. The bomb is taken away. You can currently see it. He knows exactly where the players are going to be, or at least they're going to know where he is. And Offset going to take a much-needed, crucial round here in the last round of the first half.
Yeah, that's more of a lifeline round. I think if we sort of talk about a 12-3 as it's possible. Like, you could turn things around. It's very unlikely, especially because that was the T-side victory coming out from alternate attacks. But at the same time, if you go in at least with a few rounds on the board, you can maybe win yourself that pistol round, which I think we normally talk about pistol rounds being a lot more 50-50. If you look at 2 teams, there's a high possibility that the underdog team can win a pistol round. Whereas when it goes into the buy rounds where you have everything you desire, you have all the weaponry, that's where the favored team should push in front. So if Offset can now at least get this pistol round, they have a lifeline in this match. But as I said, they are still very, very far behind.
Generally, as you do watch the game, more and more, and you understand the game more and more, you can actually see in terms of utility what they have in the pistol round, and basically guess or predict where they're going to be going. Oh, what a shot out of Mantu! That flick coming in takes down Stododo. Now gig is up. Looks like they were trying to push in. Molotov came in. I think he actually threw that wrong. He should have thrown it over towards the connector where we saw that CT player holding from, but it hit the top of the ceiling and bounced back against him. They had to quickly rotate back out. A little bit unfortunate for Offset, but they do trade 1 for 1. And with how Counter-Strike works, the terrorist side's always going to be favored in a one-on-one trade because since there's 4 players and you only have 4 defenders now, you have to split 2-2 between the 2 sites or 3-1 or put all 4 on one site. So it makes things a little bit more imbalanced for you trying to defend.
Yeah, in pistol rounds, it's normally a little bit more even, but you can see that the pistol switch has actually come in from Riz as well. So he's picked up a USP, which gives him higher range, but less bullets within the clip. So he's more likely to hit the shots for players further away. But if they get close, like we've just seen there, it's a little bit more difficult. And the CT side's still a man down. They need something back here. Slacks with a good chance to do it, but he can't quite connect the shots. He gets there eventually, and now PR, 8 HP. 2 players to find. He's only got 25 seconds. He has to retrieve this bomb and is trying to mark some of the sounds by shooting off bullets, but it is going to be Stefan, and, well, we've seen the turnaround. This is just how fast this man's reactions are, and he's still cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, and you kind of have to be. I mean, those are shots that I think a lot of players expect to hit at the high level. Yeah. I mean, not necessarily like consistently, but more than 50% of the time.
Just
they should
not
be
us.
hitting those. Yeah, of course not us. I'd be happy to hit a shot like that once in my lifetime. But either way, 13-3, Alternate do win the pistol round, and that means they have the buy-up into the next. Again, we actually even talked about this weapon, the Scout, currently being sat on by Dude. It's like the AWP, it's a sniper, but it's not a one-shot kill unless it's at the head. And he didn't really have much of a chance to use it, unfortunately, right there. As Alternate do go up to 14, and now 2 rounds away from closing out the map and taking home 500,000 additional euros. That would be 500,000 additional euros.
Are you putting up some extra money for this, Jason?
We're giving them your day rate. We're giving them your day rate. So they'll be taking home, what, 7,500 if they can win this out.
Yeah. Yeah, the majority of the cash going their way, but they've still got a couple more rounds. It's not over till it's over. We've seen crazier comebacks in Counter-Strike before. They're going to be trying to brute force their way out here. Now, there's some riskier weapons currently in play for alternate attacks, but they have started off strong. The initial trade, aggressive play from Cressy. He wants to get those highlight reels going, but instead, he's going to be put down early in this round, and Mantu and Slacks left alone to try and fight this one. Chances are slim, but they're hoping somebody gives them the opportunity.
Well, with the man advantage, I think they should be taking this round in an ideal world, especially with Alternate kind of looking to already save. You can see again on the minimap, they've backed off towards their own spawn. Just holding angles, not really expecting to go for this. But I think they can also expect Offset to not push them, considering Offset didn't have much money to use either. Now, knowing the AWP's in towards spawn, they don't really have a great way to challenge. It's not a ton of utility to use. So they're just going to back away. Both teams going to retreat, and we'll go into the next round.
Yeah, even still, the extra kill or 2 that came in towards the end actually does help out the CT side a little bit. It reduces the Portuguese side's finances overall. And even just saving the extra weaponry is going to be something. So Alternate Attacks will get a little bit of loss bonus money, which should enable them at least to buy a couple of guns. But it's whether or not they actually want to take the risk here. They could just save their money, wait an extra round, and try and do what they can with the 2 that they have. Obviously, then there's the risk of losing those 2. Or they can just put everything into this round. And to be honest, for them at this point, it doesn't really matter what the decision is. They are very far in front.
Yeah. But again, one thing we have mentioned about momentum.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know you have a lot of rounds that you could give, technically. But you don't want to get the other team's hopes up. You don't want them getting motivated and getting the feeling that they could easily come back from this one. Not easily, they could come back from this one. So we're going to see now Offset, looking to hit towards the inside side. Again, a lot of smokes being thrown, a lot of flashbangs as well. Grenade. Going to hit Riz, take him down to 75 HP, but Offset are pretty much banking on this inside hit. And Alternate, what do they have to defend with here? Currently, Krezi with AM4, and they have Mantu playing up close with the AUG. He's actually going to be blinded out completely here, not able to go for these first shots. He's actually going to miss on a couple, but he does drop the bomb, and they're going to actually go back to retrieve this one. He had the upper actually covered for him with the smoke coming through, and look at this Alternate. How does he almost pick up that kill as well? 4-on-2, now 4-on-1, and that's going to be Alternate getting on match point.
Yeah, that's a big round for them. They had some severe weaponry missing. Like, dude started that round with just a scout, no armor, no nades, and well, he definitely helped with that defense. Now it's left with 1 round needed. Very close to Alternate Attacks, absolutely dominating this second map within the series. Wow. Interesting to see Just having an AK when he doesn't have any armor. So this is actually quite a risky play from him, and wow, already the headshot with the scout, a second one picked up from Slacks as well. This is looking like it's over. Alternate Attacks only needing 2 more kills, and then they have won themselves this match in style.
Let's see, PR and Just not out at the moment. They still obviously have a chance, but the chance is obviously dwindling away as the clock does tick closer and closer to 0 seconds. Eventually going to have to make their move, and what they're looking for is just a pick, and unfortunately it's going to go the way of Mantu. And that's going to be all down on PR. I feel like we said this a couple of times so far on Train. 1v5, you would need the ace, which means he kills all 5 players on the enemy team to win this round and keep Offset in this. But that is a lot to ask out of this Portuguese player.
Yeah, this is something that barely ever happens within Counter-Strike, and the reason is it's just so rare. It almost has to be mistakes being made, but yeah, that was utterly dominant from Alternate Attacks. More of what we expected from them in this second map after the first one slipped from them, but at least neither team is going away empty-handed in this show match. It's nice, at least.
So we knew that the maps were picked ahead of time. Teams did get to pick the map, and I'm assuming Alternate picked Train. We'd Offset actually choose Overpass, because that obviously looks like more of how the scorelines have went. But obviously, that in a traditional competitive sense, that's not what happens when we talked about the whole vetoes and picks. But it's nice to see both teams really coming out. We saw some great plays out of both. Mantu had fantastic shots. That flick and pistol round was phenomenal, as we saw on Train. And I'm curious to see where these teams go, down the line. It's not obviously done for them just yet. They're obviously still going to continue to play as a team and go back to their regions. Hopefully, have learned some things, I would hope, from this little exhibition they had. Yeah, I hope so.
I mean,
you got to look at every term as a learning opportunity.
It's a chance for them to start, right? I mean, of course, we know that they are national champions already, so they want to get into that next stage, that next bracket of being one of the better teams towards Pro League, towards the likes of getting to those big stadium events. And maybe they'll need team changes to get there. That's always something that helps when you find the better players. But I was impressed with what I saw, especially in that second map for Alternate Attacks. As you said, we thought that was going to happen in map number 1, but maybe it's down to a veto process. Do you think they would have done better if there was a veto process here?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm curious to see where things kind of go. Sorry, I had a producer in my ear when you were asking that question there. So I didn't fully hear. I'm just guessing you're talking about the vetoes there.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, in a traditional sense, we would have vetoes, and like, for instance, Offset would have been able to, like, all right, we're going to ban Train because it's one of your better maps. And then Alternate would, of course, had to play on a map they're not as comfortable on. It plays a massive aspect to it. We talk about, like, preparation in terms of knowing what teams do. Well, you also knowing what teams are good on map-wise. It's like you have to take into account when vetoing.
Well, I think also for Alternate, they probably had a deeper map pool. So in reality, maybe they would have taken out something like Overpass or forced the team that's obviously less experienced onto a tougher map. And then they may have just taken that in a 2-0 fashion. So it's not necessarily bad for a show match that we get to see the Portuguese side on a map we know they like to play.
And do you think there was anything that went badly wrong for either of these teams? Was there anything you saw they were just like, no, they absolutely shouldn't be doing this, or do you think just standard Counter-Strike, they were playing pretty well?
I think it's one of those things, like, obviously if you only manage to get a few rounds on the CT side of Train, then it may just not be a map that you play too much, because this was utterly dominant. And as said, like, during the cast, you shouldn't be able to get anywhere near 12 rounds on the T side of Train. So if it is going to be a map that they play, I think it's something that they'll need to work on for sure. But that is the essence of anything, like, be it sport or be it Counter-Strike as a whole. It is one of those things, like, if something goes wrong, that means you have the video to watch back. You can go through this. You can watch from our point of view, obviously, as you guys just have, and you can see everything that we said, or you can go through, as they probably will, with their managers, with their coaches, with the other players, and say, okay, this didn't work, this didn't work. They did this better than us. Okay, how can we fix this now?
And to be fair, like, some regions just don't play certain maps. I think, like back in the day, like the North American region, they played a ton of Mirage, but like EU didn't play it that much. And like with Dust 2, everyone in EU played it, knew how to play like a good Dust 2, and like NA didn't. So maybe it's just the region. Maybe Train's just not a map that they play too often when doing scrims with each other. Because obviously when you're a team trying to rise to the top, having you take the time allocated and like do it properly, right? If there's 7 maps, you can't spend equal time on every map, because then you're just going to be like equal skill level. You need to have some of those maps that you can be able to like power through and beat teams that are like above you in terms of ranking, like the overall ranking. And maybe this is one of those maps that they haven't really put as much time into as they'd like to compared to others.
But a really good starting point, and I mean, we saw plenty of individual plays as well throughout both of those maps. Was there anyone who really stood out for you? I mean, I know you're a big fan of the British boy, but anyone else?
I would say that Mantu is definitely the one, but I do like the way that Dude, in a lot of the way he plays. Like, he knows that he is not the heavy fragger within the team. He is the in-game leader. So you see him a lot of the time either taking high risks with his plays, where he'll like aggressively push into a position which might be considered a little bit silly, or he'll be there setting up utility for the rest of the players. So it's not, obviously we know that Mantu's going to be the one getting a lot of the frags, doing a lot of the damage, but there's always people behind him or making plays for him to give him the extra space.
Every role matters in CSGO, not just the players, but of course the talent as well. Thank you so much for running us through all the action, guys. Now, to finish things off, we're going to throw this one over to Matt Andrews on the stage.
Thank you, Dan and Tom and Jason, for taking us through those incredible 2 maps. And thanks to everybody for joining us here at ESL National Championship Invitational. I hope you've enjoyed the games. I know we had some esports fans in the audience, but I know for a few people here, that was your first time seeing competitive gaming and how we do it. So I hope you enjoyed your little peek behind how all this works as well. Our thanks to Alternate Attacks, who come out slightly the richer after these 2 maps, and to Offset Esports. Thanks, guys, for incredible competition from them. This has been the Esports Showcase. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're here with us here at IBC 2019, thanks for choosing to end your conference with us, and have a safe journey home.
They told me get one, so I got one. Stop saying you're a boss when you're now one. You ain't sacrificed, nah, you ain't lost none. All over the gram like you got a bag. You ain't big dog, we ain't hear none of that. I'm in the gym looking like a running back. And you know the flow, got him coming back. Who I was in the past, I'm unattached. Only focus in this moment is bringing the summer back. Oh, respect my grind, elevate souls and I spread good vibes. Young divine, you know I gotta shine. Raise your hands for a good time. Aight.
Sleep until the noon. You said that you wanted, so I got it for you. Let's all get together and show them how we move. We move, we move. Bringing summer to you.
Oh, ready, let's go. 'Cause you know how we roll. Let's take it round the world and back again. Ready, let's go. 'Cause you know, like I know, we'll take it. Switch my flow up. Back in high school, they were telling me I'll blow up. Doing talent shows and man, everyone will show up. Got in an accident and still made it for them to go nuts. You know what? I'm so So what? I'm so That means I can't describe the way I vibe, the way I slide. And with the rhymes that make the dimes, I'll close their eyes and fantasize. Young divine calling their phone number. No, you know I love you. And you know me, I can't sleep without blazing. successful, though life gets stressful. Though life gets stressful, go and vibe out with whoever you next to.
Live until the morning, sleep until the noon. You said that you want it, so I got it for you. Let's all get together and show them how we move. We move, we move.
3, 2,
bringing summer to you.
Oh, ready, let's go. Cause you know how we roll. Let's take it round the world and back again. Ready, let's go. Cause you know like I know. We'll take it round.
I was dancing on my own.